this meeting or not. So I would like to entertain a motion that we have the special Senate meeting. We will begin with a Senate motion, and if that motion is made, we will have an Assembly motion. The Assembly motion needs to pass with a 2/3 vote. The Senate motion needs to pass with a majority vote. So I'd like to entertain that motion now. Yes.
I move to hold this meeting today.
Second. On behalf of the Senate, all in favor of holding this meeting, please say aye. Senators only, please raise your hand. Okay, so the Senate approves of holding this meeting, so now the Assembly Chair for today, who is sitting in for Vice President C-Strand, will chair that for it.
I would entertain the motion.
I would like to move to hold today's meeting and to suspend bylaws of the Assembly meeting, Article 1. This one?
Point of order.
Yes.
Would we be able to have a debate regarding the motion in question? Well, I call to have a 2-minute debate regarding the proposed motion.
Okay, it's been called and seconded that we entertain a debate for 2 minutes regarding the proposed motion, whether or not we will hear this bill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Are there any extensions? Okay. Yeah, of course. Division. Okay, everyone who voted aye on hearing a debate to actually hear this bill tonight, raise your hand, please. Not senators. Just make that clear. Okay. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, we are going to hear the debate. Representative.
I disapprove suspension of the bylaws to hold this meeting for the following reasons. First, we as a voting body.
Sorry, say that one more time. Suspension of the bylaws. That hasn't happened. We're voting on whether or not to have this meeting in the General Assembly. That's the motion.
Yes, okay. Oh, thank you. So I disapprove holding this. We as a voting body are meant to reflect the views of our constituents responsibly and respectfully. House is responsible to hold this meeting, a very important one, if we are debating a 110-year-old tradition with only 10 days of public knowing about it. In addition, there's no clear process if we continue with this meeting and the resolution gets passed after ASUU. I've been informed that if ASUU were to pass this bill, it would go straight to President Pershing with little to no input from the student body, alumni association, Crimson Club, Utah Athletics, university community overall. It would be irresponsible for us to allow this meeting to take place and eventually go to a vote with only some of our constituents knowing about not only this meeting but the bill in question. As leaders across campus, we should be responsible for voicing student concerns and establishing a transparent process. How to be transparent if a decision comes today, knowing that this meeting was only officially announced via social media and other possibly exclusive means with less than 24 hours. Finally, as a solutions-minded individual, I think it would be responsible to postpone this meeting and first establish a clear procedure for changes to be made to the fight song. Since this is a tradition that impacts the entire community, I suggest that in the fall, legislation is first proposed to take traditions of the University of Utah through the following process. Student-wide vote, and if approved, then it goes to the Board of Trustees, and then finally going to President Pershing, instead of ultimately leaving up a 110-year-old tradition to be debated by the community for 10 days in a possibly non-transparent manner, and then eventually possibly changed. So I suggest that we don't have this meeting with possible implications that could ensue.
Is there a motion to suspend? Representative, a motion to suspend.
Okay.
It's been called and seconded that we move to extend time by 3 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Are there any division? Okay. All those in favor of extended time by 3 minutes, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Time will be extended by 3 minutes. Representative, or Attorney General.
Yes, as a point of information, Board Resolution 10 is also
also on the docket, that is up for consideration of the bill. So we're considering the possible contentious issues that you might have with Joint Resolution 11. Please recognize that there still is possibly 2 more bills to be heard.
Okay, just to address some of Chester's things. He said that the community has known about this for 10 days. Assembly always has open door public meetings, and we held a vote on this about a month ago. So it's been in the works for more than 10 days and has been available to the public for over a month. And it was in the drafting statement before that and made public before that, so it has been way more than 10 days. However, it's only just receiving recognition from students. Not very involved in the assembly who just hear about it when it becomes a big deal and not when it's like the day-to-day assembly running. Said that it's not a majority. We're elected officers. We were elected by a majority, and we voted by a majority to have this meeting and to put the lyrics under review. Oh, sorry. To put the lyrics under review. This meeting is still being debated. The meeting was only formally announced over 24 hours ago, not less than, and it has been in the process, in the works. I don't think it's fair to just say when the meeting was announced and categorize that as the amount of time that and thought that has been put into this meeting, just because it has been a little bit rushed. I think that mirrors the urgency of what we're facing, gender equality and racial equality. And as an assembly member, we have been completely transparent this entire time, writing the bill, talking to people. I've gotten at least 50 emails a day, as I'm sure all of you have, from constituents. We've been completely transparent, and I think that this meeting should be held because it's necessary that we discuss this. It's a big enough deal that we need to talk about it.
Representative Boyer.
Yeah, I'm going to actually use one of your points, Chester, Representative Newhall, that this has been a debate for 110 years for a lot of people. So I'm excited to talk about this. I think this has been on the docket. This has been on the forefront of many people's minds for a very long time. So to say that this has only been around for 10 days, a little bit dismissive of my feelings for sure. And thank you, Attorney General Wheeler, for saying that we do have other joint resolutions on the board, and I think those are important here as well. So that's all I'm saying.
I guess my concern is that to even make this meeting possible, proxies were contacted within the past 6 hours. I'm concerned that even proxies aren't entirely sure and informed.
Motion to extend time by 3 minutes.
Second.
Please wait to be called over by the chair, but a motion to extend time by how many?
3 minutes.
Like 3 minutes has been called and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Yay.
I will be extended by another 2 minutes. Representative.
So I guess my concern is that because this meeting has been thrown together primarily for the purposes of the popular joint bill, and I recognize that there are other bills on the docket. This is an extremely important bill, and I'm afraid that it's only been privy to the political elite in the debate and at the University of Utah community. I think the university, whatever the outcome, would be best served if there's more of a public forum. I mean, even the discussion we had on Friday hasn't been made publicly available, and that was intended to get the voice out. And there are only 60 or so individuals there. I think the university would benefit, and ASUU could be at the forefront of a public forum in which we can debate this, and in which all sides can be equally heard, and in which more than just the student political elite can be privy to the information at hand. I think it would be responsible for us as ASUU to ensure that the next administration carries on this debate and ensures that, again, all voices are heard, both alumni and students, because this is a 110-year-old tradition that affects individuals whether they attended the University of Utah or not.
I take somewhat offense to what Justin says over there. I've been working for the last 3 weeks actively speaking on the radio almost every day, taking television interviews, making the public very aware of this piece of legislation. The Chronicle has done several exposés on the issue as well, and I believe we, ASUU, represent the students on campus. The alumni have their chance to speak to the president on this. through their relations to the alumni house. And it is our job here as elected officials to show up at a meeting that's been called, that's been paid for, and orchestrated, that all of you have come to, and not waste the time and the money of our constituents to hear a bill that's in their interest, that they want heard, that they want finalized, that they don't want to deal with.
Representative Newhall.
I think all representatives make good points. However, I think this is a bigger issue and it needs to be brought to all students' attentions. And I understand the Chronicle has put thought into this and writing about it. But if you look back at campaigns, ASUU has put a lot of money into getting students out there to vote. And so I think that needs to be taken in act for this situation, because I think this is not only a University of Utah issue, but a Utah state issue in general. So I think there needs to be put money into this for students to vote on this big issue that's been around for 110 years.
I guess the point is,
Okay.
So we are student representatives. We were voted on by the students. We are voted to make decisions. This is one of the many, like a cornucopia of decisions we've had to make over this semester, and they're just calling into question our authority. I think that's a little unfair, no offense. I think it's unfair. We voted on hundreds.
Time has been called. The motion is second.
Second.
It has been called and seconded to extend time by 2 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Division. All those that voted aye, please raise your hand. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, the motion has failed, so we will not extend time. All right. Would you like to make a motion? Okay. All those who have something to say, it will, someone needs to say. Okay, and it's been called and seconded that we would stop speakers list. It shall be formatted after this vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Are there any abstentions? Okay, we will stop the speaker list. Move on. All those in favor of hearing this bill tonight, of having this meeting rather. All those in favor of having this meeting tonight, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Division. Please raise your hand if you said aye. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Please raise them up high. Okay. Are there any exceptions? Okay, we will proceed with the meeting.
Okay, so at this point, now that we will be having this meeting, any bills that will be heard need to be moved from the table to the floor. And before I entertain a motion, I would like to begin by saying I know that this is a very passionate debate and people have very strong views. If at any point I feel that you are being disrespectful, I will ask you to leave and you will be excused from the meeting. So please keep that in mind. I would like to entertain a motion that we move bills on now for Senate. Yes. For all three bills. No, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Senators, we're just going to raise hands. Senators, raise your hand if you move. All opposed? Any abstentions? All three bills are moved on to the floor for Senate.
We will now hold the same vote for assembly. I would entertain a motion to bring all three bills to order tonight. Representative.
Excellent.
It's been called and seconded. We bring all three bills to the floor tonight. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All any opposed say nay. Nay. Are there any exceptions? Okay, here are all three bills.
Okay, so the process of how things will work today is we will first hear Joint Resolution 10, followed by the additional joint bill, and we will finish with Joint Resolution 11 with regard to the fight song. For each bill, or each piece of legislation that we will hear a unified introduction. Followed, we will then break out into Assembly and Senate, separate sides of the room. We will do Assembly on that side, Senate on this side. We will hold separate questions and debates, followed by a unified summation, and then we will vote by paper ballot. The timing will be different for the Joint Resolution 11 regarding the fight song. Instead of the 1 minute intro, 2 minutes question, 3 minutes debate, and 1 minute summation, we will have 5 minutes for the introduction, followed by 10 minutes for questions, 10 minutes for debate, and a 5-minute summation. All of these are subject to extension if so moved. If Assembly finishes before Senate, they will wait until Senate has completed their questions and debate. Vice versa, same with debate. Are there any questions on the process? Okay, are there any general motions at this time? For Senate, sorry.
So as a point of information, after meeting with the university administration and the legal counsel for the university, going over the bylaws, yeah, I handed out this lovely little statement from me. There was some concern about the notice given to the ASUU assembly. Bylaws require 7 days. Whether or not 7 days notice was given is entirely dependent on whether or not the date of the meeting is included within those days. And there is no official university policy guiding us on that. So the legal counsel has suggested that the assembly moves to suspend the rules, that one rule alone, just to ensure that we are following everything. And that would just require a motion, second, and a vote.
We're still on the Senate side, so if you would like to wait until Assembly. So there are no general motions on the side of Senate.
Second.
All in favor of suspending the reading of a long time, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Will not read a long time. Any other general motions for Senate? Okay, we'll hand it over to Assembly.
Are there any general motions? It's been called and seconded to suspend the reading of long titles. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Are there any exceptions? Will not read the title. Are there any other general motions? Representative Davis.
Just a question regarding the joint statement. So when it comes to the rules committee, when is that brought up? When we go through.
That's fine with policy. Usually, you just once you vote for something to the board, that
I move to temporarily suspend the rules regarding required 7 days notice for special assembly.
Second.
It's been called and seconded that we overlook the 7-day rule when it comes to this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
All those in favor say aye. Or raise your hand, rather. Please raise your hands up high. All those opposed? Okay, we'll overlook this rule. Are there any other general motions? Representative Lee.
I motion
motion to remove the reading of
I move to remove everyone from the room who's not a voting member of the Senate or the Assembly. The room next door has been set up as a room for lunch. Instructions in the room any moving or controlling will make the meeting easier and more expedited.
It's been called and seconded that all who are not voting members of this body move to the room adjacent in which there's a line feed, so we won't have any disruptions. All those in favor of doing this, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Are there any exceptions? Okay. Now, if anyone in this room is not a member of the voting body or running equipment, please move to the room adjacent.
Totally.
Attorney General, Legislative Advisor, Sam Ortiz, and
Okay. It has been proposed that the commission stay in the room. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay. We're going to turn things back over to Stephanie.
So would anyone like to make that motion?
I make a motion that we include anyone who wants to be at this meeting be able to sit and not vote.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay, so just point of information. If this motion passes, we'll have a reconciliation between Assembly and Senate, whereas the Executive Committee of Senate and the Rules Committee of Assembly will meet to discuss this matter before we proceed. And we will not proceed until they come. So, the motion has been called and seconded. All in favor of including everyone who is not just a voting member or an ex-officio member or the aforementioned people, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Any abstentions? Anyone want to make a motion on behalf of supporting the assembly? If that motion is not made, still need to have reconciliation. That's what all in favor of moving in accordance with assembly, please say aye.
Aye.
Please raise your hand if you support it. Okay, all opposed? It passes, so non-voting members and non-voting members will not be allowed to say in this room, unless they were permitted. Any other general motions? Okay. And so also before we begin, it is at the discretion of the chair whether the public can be utilized for questions. And I have decided that we will not be utilizing the public for questions today. I feel that we all have adequate opinions and information outside of the public to formulate our opinions. So we will begin with Joint Resolution 10. Yes.
Could I just make a request that people speak up a little bit because I'm having a hard time hearing that side of the table.
I just sitting here like people that are facing that way.
This is for setting.
No, so introduction.
Molly Wheeler. This was an issue that was brought up in the last meeting, but I was sick and could not attend, so I could not speak on its behalf of the people. These are changes to Article 5 of the ASUU bylaws, which is the elections procedure. Over the past few years, we've noticed some kind of systemic issues with the ASUU elections process, and a group of us sat down, both former candidates, incoming administration, outgoing and incoming elections registrars, to look at the process and see what we could do to make it more effective for all students involved and for ASUU. Of note, we have decided, and if we choose to pass it, that political parties will remain intact even if presidential and vice presidential candidates do not make it through a primary election. It also allows for a more flexible campaign timeline, so that there has been some concern.
Senators, all in favor of extending introduction time by 2 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
So there was some concern about the election process being too taxing on our actual students, since we are students before we are student leaders. So we allowed for a more flexible timeline. Additionally, we are requiring that ASUU, all paid members of ASUU, with the exception of legislators who are seeking re-election to be in the legislative branch again, are impartial, neutral, and not active in any sort of political campaign. It's a huge issue with ASUU in the past, and we figured that cutting off all involvement would be the best way to negotiate that moving forward. We also require that the election packet needs to be available before November 1st. We've had issues in the past where parties are breaking rules they do not know exist, which makes it difficult to uphold the process when people are breaking rules unintentionally. It's kind of difficult to rectify that problem. Additionally, we further discuss how the ASUU Supreme Court will be involved in cases of disqualification, and we create an elections council to help the elections registrar through some of the more nitty-gritty details of recruiting, advertising, poster count, stuff like that the elections committee is not allowed to do. And we further clarify financial paths through the primary and general election process. And I yield my time.
All right, so at this point, if all assembly members can move to that side of the room, all Senate can move to this side, we'll have a question and debate. Questions and tags. 2 minutes for Senate now.
Can you confirm, or can you clarify the role of the election?
Yes. So right now we have an elections committee that is the judicial kind of body over the elections process. So whenever there are grievances filed, they're the ones that hear that grievance and determine what the kind of punishment will be for whatever actions were taken. But since they are in that judicial position, they cannot really be in any sort of position moving forward looking for violations. And so we created this council so that the council can be more active trying to pick up on violations.
Seeing as there are no more questions, lots of questions for Assembly.
Attorney General Wheeler, the fourth whereas clause at the end states failure to do so will be granted for future. Can you clarify who keep bringing those charges? How those run?
Yes, so anyone can bring about articles of impeachment. Typically, it is the Attorney General. The Attorney General is not to be biased in that decision. It could easily be someone else. The termination process goes typically through the Chief of Staff and through the ASUU President. However, it is also a power of the ASUU Senate to put someone on probation. So that could also be, articles of probation could be brought forward if someone were to be involved.
Seeing no more questions, just not back.
Assembly there, Senate here for debate.
So as of right now, take your name tags with you, and again,
Senate here.
all right, you
Okay, we will now move into 3 minutes of debate. Representative Whitman.
Well, I was a very outspoken critic of this bill in its original form. I'm very happy with the amendments that have been made, the changes that have been made. I feel like they more fairly represent and encourage the procedures of ASUU, and then keep it back to the integrity of ASUU and keep it outside of any political disputes. And I would vote for this.
Representative Newhall.
Got it. I agree with Representative Pittman. I think this is great, having been on the side, especially this taxing on the students' academic endeavors. I noticed that some of the lowest GPAs of those running are typically the semesters in which they run. So I agree with Representative Pittman. I think we should push this bill through.
Representative Pittman.
I move to the previous question.
Second. Been called and seconded to move to previous question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay. We will now. Okay. Are there explanations going to be? Yeah. Okay. All right. We're just going to wait for Senate to be done, and then we're going to have a joint explanation.
All right, then everyone wait back to your seat.
Okay. Okay. Senate is done.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
I'm sterilized you're the other new. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have that marker for the name tag.
Sana. It's right here.
Oh, I want it. Oh, that's good.
I think she's turned it.
I'll leave it out. She's not a bitch.
How are you?
I don't know either. I mean, that's pretty strong. I think it's
Hey everyone, before we go to submissions, does everyone have a voting record? You need this. Voting record, everyone has one? If someone has been late for whatever reason, let them know to come to me to get a voting record, okay?
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much for your consideration. A lot of time and energy was put into your changes, and we really appreciate your consideration on revamping Article 5, particularly revamping our internal electoral process. So thank you.
Senators, all in favor of passing joint resolution 10, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
All right, Assembly members, all those in favor of passing joint resolution 10, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions?
That's brilliant.
We will now move on to what says Assembly Bill number blank on top, and it is actually Joint Resolution 13. Make sure you add that on the bottom of your voting record. right, we will begin. Yes.
Is that supposed to be Joint Bill 11 as the second one and not Joint Bill 1?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
All right, we will begin with the 1-minute introduction.
The bill that you have in front of you is a very simple resolution that authorizes, that basically gives the authority to the president, next year's president, and vice president to negotiate on behalf of ASUU to seek a reduction in the rent that we pay to the student union. Currently, we pay the student union both to our tuition dollars and to our student fees. We're double taxed. I'm looking to remove this extra $15,000. I've already worked with the director of the union and to kind of make this happen, and this bill would help him in the negotiation process. The bill does nothing more than condemn the fact that we are charged $15,000 and essentially double taxed, and empowers the vice president of ASUU and the president for next year to investigate immediately begin the elimination of this charge.
So we'll move into 2 minutes of questions for Senate.
So whose decision is it ultimately between what parties on what we pay?
There are no 2 parties. There are 18 parties, involving the, I think it's the Office of Higher Education at the state level, the governor's office, the office of the president of campus, several other entities. But in the end, what really needs to happen is the union director has pursued this option twice before by himself without our prompting. I'm doing it with our prompting this time to give him further support. He's going to take that and hopefully work with next year's administration, Justin and Madison, to get it through all of the other kind of 18 channels that are expected. And he thinks that with our support, it should probably get passed this time because we're actually involved in last time.
So to follow up, so this bill isn't necessary to reduce the rent, it's just to say that final price should be negotiated between the union and ASUU.
No, this bill is the elimination of unpaid church rent, period.
Period.
Should not be paying it twice, in my opinion. Paying it for $20, why are we paying it for $2?
Okay.
Yes.
Are there other offices in
There, well, the Union Programming Council, from my understanding, does not pay, and they're the most similar to us. So we should also not pay rent.
One last question. What, from your knowledge, what parties are opposed to this?
I don't know of anyone who's opposed to getting $15,000 wage, including the union director, who specifically is the one who benefits from the rent dollars coming in. If he gets funding elsewhere, he just doesn't think it should be taxed if he deals with them. It's just by the most located office to you.
Moving over to Senate.
Okay, Assembly, we now have 2 minutes for questions. Representative Thatcher.
Sorry if I'm repeating myself again. I just really can't hear the questions asked by the Senate. But why would they be charged with rent? Why would ASUU be charged rent? What's the purpose of that?
I'll defer to Sandra.
So the reason why ASUU pays rent is because we require student fees, so they see that as revenue, that we're revenue making organization. That's why we charge rent.
Yeah, Representative, I sat on the union board for 3 years and I served for 1 year as the union board chair. So I see the union financials every month. I have not ever seen a line item that is student fees. Is there something?
There is.
that I'm missing?
Our budget includes $15,000 to pay rent.
Yeah, but there's student fees don't. There's no student fee that goes directly to the union.
No, our student fees go to ASUU, which has our student fees from ASUU to pay the rent.
Exactly. So that's the rent. Where are the other student fees we're talking about? Are we paying twice? We're paying for this.
So we pay a student fee we pay tuition. Part of our tuition pays every building we can. And we also pay an ASUU fee every time we pay tuition. Part of that money goes to ASUU and is allocated to our rent every month. So we are paying double.
So you think other offices in the union should not pay rent either?
From what I understand, the other offices on campus pay rent through other mechanisms. So if they have revenue that's coming in, like Sana was saying, that's why they pay it. we're technically a nonprofit in my mind because we're working to benefit students. We're not generating income. For example, the Chronicle is ad revenue that they use to maintain the Chronicle, but also grow the Chronicle whenever they feel fit. We don't get that. We don't grow our body. We're not working for WPA. We're essentially a nonprofit to be taxed like a nonprofit.
At this point, we'll break into debate.
Okay, you guys can all stay there. I'm just going to move over there to start a separate.
Just to start it off, I think this is kind of a funny concept. I was probably just going to ask you, very similar to being nowadays, how many pay rent like less than our.
Okay, Assembly, we will now hear 3 minutes for debate.
You don't need to pay rent. It just seems.
I moved to the previous question.
It's been called and seconded that we move to previous question. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, we'll just wait for Senate to be done and then move into 1 minute for summation.
You have a motion. Thank you, good job. And so for Senate, all in favor of passing Joint Resolution 13, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
Okay, Assembly members, all those in favor of passing Joint Resolution 13, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? Don't forget to mark on your voting.
Passed. So just as a reminder, we will have 5-minute intro, 10 minutes of questions for Senate, 10 minutes of questions for Assembly, and then we will break up and have 10 minutes of debate, and that may be extended. Please be respectful. Any questions? All right, so we will begin with a 5-minute introduction. All in favor for Senate. All in favor of including Taylor Thompson as requested to be president by President Ortiz. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The abstentions?
Okay, Assembly members, it's been requested that Taylor Thompson be present to present this bill. And because we included everyone else before, we're not going to vote on allowing her to be in. So I would entertain a motion to allow Taylor Thompson to this meeting. Representative
Second.
It's been called and seconded that we allow Taylor Thompson to be present at this meeting.
Point of information, we will have reconciliation, which is okay. Just point of information.
Should I just ask why?
She's ideally.
Can you speak up a little bit?
She's a member of this year's administration. Oh, she's a member of this year's administration and has worked on this issue.
Okay, we will now proceed to this vote. All those in favor of allowing Julie Thompson to come into this room, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Was there any say?
Sorry, the video's like a minute behind, so.
Are we good with the introduction?
All right, you have a 5-minute introduction.
Senator Shoulders, and I go my 10.
I'm Mark Pittman. I'm the co-sponsor of this from the Assembly side. Joint Resolution 11, as you all know, speaks very directly to amending the fight song of the University of Utah, and I will temporarily yield my time to Senator Ortiz.
Thank you. First, I wanted to thank both the Senate and the Assembly for voting to hear this issue today. I recognize it's not an easy conversation to have, but I think the most important ones are very useful to have. So I appreciate the willingness to allow this to be brought forward today. And I look forward to being able to share why I believe this issue is important, not just because of the song, but because of the symbolism of other issues that this campus is facing, and the message that will be sent whichever way this goes, and it will be impactful, and I recognize that. And I think we have the opportunity to send a message that the university listens to marginalized voices and responds. Given the last few weeks, I know many of you have received some feedback, some of it not as nice as others, and I know a lot of it in opposition to the changes. I have received, in fact, quite a bit of support, and I wanted to share that with you. I have a sample of some of the letters from a diversity of areas, including current students, alumni, faculty, staff, all constituencies, I think, want to be heard, and just I'll just maybe let you peruse those as we have this discussion and questions. I wanted to maybe just start off with why we're where we're at today. As has been mentioned, the song has been here at the university for over 100 years, and for decades, individuals have felt excluded because of the wording of the song. I think it's very obvious that our community, our campus, has issues of racism and sexism, and this song is not the cause of those things, but it is parallel to those issues. And our willingness to critically look at these things and make these hard decisions will reflect on our willingness and ability to look at the more difficult issues here at this campus. And so when I was approached, with the concerns of this, of the verbiage of this song, I was in support. I tried to commit myself to issues of inclusivity and diversity. And over again, my experience has been hitting walls and barriers. And it has been very heartbreaking to pursue these causes passionately and to be rejected quite frequently. And I began to be honest, feel as I reflected back on this year that I didn't fulfill my promise of pushing forward for a more inclusive and diverse, friendly campus. So when this was given to me, I definitely knew I wanted to be an ally to the cause, and wanted to make sure that that this was a change that I thought was necessary, and yeah, I was a little maybe naive on controversial in some of the responses that I received after initiating this only highlighted the concerns of discrimination and sexism and racism, and only I think motivated me more to continue the conversation and to continue for change. So with that, last month we both of these bodies voted to start that dialogue, and now I think it is time for change and action. This dialogue has been going on for decades, and if we don't change it, it will continue to go on for decades. We have an opportunity to make a small change in a positive direction. Those changes are changing the word man in Utah Man Song and co-eds and fairs. 3 words that I feel are exclusive and need to be critically examined. And I think we can have the fight song that a broader community can be proud to see. I don't want to get rid of tradition. I love tradition. I just want to know tradition. And
All right, so we will move into 10 minutes of questions for Senate.
I know that it's been discussed that this has been a fairly open forum in that it's been a discussion, but it's really for like our knowledge from I'd like to know what.
yeah, so I mean, I would push back that I've received feedback about the song since I started here. And I know other people have tried to change it, and I just happen to be in a position where I can move it along, and I won't be in that position. So people have tried to change it, and they've been pushed down, and I'm just using my position to represent marginalized voices that don't get heard.
To build on that answer, I feel like over the last 100 years of the song's existence, changes to the fight song have been brought up several times. It costs us hundreds, if not thousands of dollars every single time we talk about them. The changes are now being considered in front of you, and I think the conversation is really being had for a really long time. The conversation has been had with alumni, with students, with staff, every single person that's involved, whether that's in the forums that the ASUU hosted the Hinkley, whether that's in newspapers, on the radio stations, on television stations, or even our emails. I'm sure that many of you have received this kind of response as I've been people come to me in the halls and ask questions about this. I think the process has been extremely thorough, if not maybe too thorough.
So, I mean, the conversation is the how do you say why
Sorry. I don't know. You know, I just happen to be in a position to propose this bill, and I wanted to take that opportunity. And whether the song actually changes because of this bill, I don't know. I know I have been mentioned that if we vote to pass this and that's it, that is not my understanding. I don't think that the dialogue actually ends, but I still believe we need a call to action.
I think even more on that point, though, this bill actually came around from students and faculty and felt marginalized. They felt like they were personally being offended by the song. And all 60 some odd of you are in this room today because you have something at stake, because you feel like this is an issue important to you. And many of you feel that the song is offensive, so it's truly offensive to enough people to call this kind of a meeting, have this kind of a session. In my mind, that kind of offense warrants us at least investigating and really analyzing this. And in my mind, changing those 3 words in the song that are offensive.
I had 2 questions. The first one is just a quick one. You said that you were in a position of power right now. How long do you see yourself in this position? So we weren't going to pace this debate forward today. How long?
In terms of being student body president and kind of the podium that gives me, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Our new president will be inaugurated. So that that access to administrators, to you, will be extremely important.
And then my other question was, I think that, like, as representatives, we're elected to serve our constituents, and most issues that we encounter are quite clear cut. If it's me representing the pharmacy school, and there's a bill proposed about students in my college getting funding for a conference, I think that's a pretty clear answer. I also feel that if a bill is proposed regarding some sort of green initiative, I think the members of my college would benefit from that. They support that. This one seems to be, though, somewhat of a more personal issue, and I know that everyone's constituents are divided. So why do you think we should vote on it now and have kind of limited representation rather than bring it first?
Yeah, so I mean, I understand like how you might want to differentiate funding bill, the bill for green initiative, and that you're able to see the benefits of that to your constituency. I'm sorry that you aren't able to see the benefits to marginalized students. I do think the benefits, from my perspective, are clear, and the harm minimal for changing. I know individuals may be upset if Islam's changed, but the difference is if we actually change it, students will be empowered and they will feel listened to and heard. So when I weigh the two options we have here, I think the benefits versus harm is clear, and that's why I think we do it now.
Not necessarily, it's like you definitely see the benefits, and I know that both sides kind of are very strongly, have very strong emotions toward the bill, so I'm not saying that there wouldn't be any benefit that I can see. I'm just saying that if my constituents are of different mindsets, why would we not want to bring the bill to the university?
Sure. So I don't know this is what you're alluding to necessarily in terms of like having a student-wide vote or something like that. This is how I feel about that. If it's merely an issue about getting like, a majority versus minority, I feel that that is the wrong approach on issues of inclusivity. It's the opposite of inclusivity. When you're saying to the minority, no, because the majority wants something. So in my opinion, if you view this as an issue of inclusivity, and it's either the right thing to do and we do it, or it's the wrong thing to do and we don't do it. That's the perspective I do.
It's also our form of government. We were elected to voice our citizens' concerns and to bring about change that they want to happen. We're the stewards of students' voices. There's no referendum process on campus for us to address fight songs, which actually aren't part of our bylaws or our constitution. Fight song is not a part of our body of law that we vote for. Subject to that. So what we're doing right here is we're exercising the powers that were given to us by the students on campus. It's our responsibility and our duty to hear this legislation here and now, to debate it this way, and for you to go back to your college and decide how you're going to vote based on your interpretation. Are you a steward? Do you represent the best interest of your college, or do you actually just represent the vote? It's 51.1% of my college voted for, therefore I will. Or are you saying it's in the best interest of our university, in the best interest of college, the best interest of my college degree, the university of Utah will be a better and more inclusive college for the future if I vote for this bill?
Yeah, I just have a hard time with the idea that there was a survey taken. It's just having more information on that. We're talking about like all these people who are hurt by it. Well, I'm talking about thousands. Well, it's just hard when there's not more information than before.
Yeah, and I definitely understand. I can guarantee you it's not 10 people. There's many students, and the issue I ran into in this process and sort of this dialogue, and I can speak to this very intimately, is when I spoke out in favor of changing it, I received an enormous, almost overwhelming amount of hate and systemic, racism, sexism, homophobia, and students saw that, and they were a lot of students didn't necessarily want to step up and be vocal or even put their name on the list because they didn't want to be the target of that kind of hate. And so this is, and once again, the very definition of being marginalized is that if you do speak up, repercussions are real. And I did collect, like I said, some of these letters, but I also had a hard time you know, if it was a younger student and they knew they would be around for 2 years, and maybe this effort doesn't pass, but they're seen as someone they're trying to push this change. I didn't want to put anyone in a position where they could be a target for everything. And so we could have done a poll, but that goes back to the majority versus minority dynamic. Something that I'm less than comfortable with because it once again means that if you're in the minority,
I think Sam's entirely right. I mean, the chief of police for university campus is here protecting us to ensure that no one initiates any of the hate that was actually threatened in the past. This is such a divisive issue, and I think minorities, especially in this position, feel so marginalized and they're scared. How many people, if you know someone that's abused, how often is it likely that person will actually speak out? I think 9 out of 10 people don't speak out when they feel discriminated against or abused or in some way, shape, or form attacked by the majority. I think in many ways it's our responsibility to protect the minority, at least to protect those voices on campus that are silenced or have not been heard. And I think this bill does that. Those people who are actually proud or strong enough or willing to stand up and say, this is offensive, this hurts me, it hurts other people. This is going to lead to other issues in the future. More and more people will be offended as the song kind of evolves and as our campus evolves and as our campus grows. In the future, it will cause more issues than it does now.
Motion to extend question time by 3 minutes. Called seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstentions. Question time will be extended by 3 minutes.
However, I also represent students, and it seems to me, that you're suggesting that instead of voting according to how our students speak, so you'd like us to vote in accordance with the would you say that's accurate?
I don't know if that's necessarily entirely accurate.
Okay.
I think so. There's a difference in government. There is you are a steward of your population. That is, you're elected to do what you think is right. So there are two different bodies of belief in the United States that no one has really ever assigned our country to. There are those people who vote for someone because they're a good person. They vote for the things you hold dear. They have the same values that you do. They have the same background. Therefore, you vote for them because they would vote the way you would want them to. They would vote in your best interest. There are also those people, the more Bill Clinton types, who vote exactly on political goals because they think benefits them in the long run. You're only elected to 1 year term. In my mind, we cannot be a student body that actually runs by polls because we're not around to be re-elected. It's our job to be stewards of the people's voices. It's our job to be elected to do what we think is best. If what we do is not best, the next body comes around and does the complete opposite. We're almost a parliamentary system, but not in a parliamentary system. But I think in my mind, we're really stewards. It's our job to do what's best for the campus community and for our constituents directly.
If I may as well, something that kind of helped me wrap my mind around this was the concept of harm. So the song, my opinion, the song as it stands is called it harm to the minority, whereas changing it doesn't have the same harm. So I view it as that by changing it, we are empowering these voices that might otherwise be oppressed. While it might be going against the number of words, I think it's causing the benefit to those.
I just want to ask just a point of clarification. I've been told what changes will be, but in this bill, there's no specific changes that are made. It said that we're going to change them, and I think that's problematic. Just because we're basically giving someone a blank check and letting them do whatever they want with it. So whether the changes or my understanding is
no, so it was, recommended to me to highlight the 3 words we want to change, but to leave it open for what those changes might be. And I know Mark had a great idea about having like a student-wide competition, and I'm comfortable with knowledge that I might not have the best idea of a replacement, but I do know that those were problematic.
Motion to extend question time by 3 minutes. Called and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Time will be extended by 3 minutes.
No,
you'll keep going after all of it.
Yeah, so I mean, we've identified the words that we want changed in order to make them more inclusive. My hope is that we can just find the right words, and if you feel that man's an issue, but you maybe don't like fan, that's fine. Maybe you have a great idea that I haven't heard of, or that the administration hasn't heard of, and I think that's why I'm comfortable leaving that open. But I'm also comfortable, amending that to specific changes, to have the specific changes proposed.
And so that's my follow-up question is, I see that, I honestly have never heard concern about this before, before this was brought to us. And now that I've heard a lot on both sides of the issue. But in my mind, it makes the most sense if we do something like a poll, whether that's even to change things, or maybe we want to change things and make a poll what changes we have. I agree with what's been said, that I think it's very broad. I know it's been an issue for maybe even 100 years, but in the sense of us voting on it and us getting information on this, I feel like it has been rushed. And so, personally, I would feel comfortable, and this is what I'm asking you for your feedback. What if we postpone this, we make some revisions and have some more specific, concrete plans laid out before us, and we also include some polling? Whether that's, and maybe we decide that it's not best to poll to see if we're going to change it or not, but at least to what the changes are going to be. Because it's still an issue in my mind that we give, and I'm not even sure who this authority is going to. And like you said, you're not even too sure who this authority is going to. We're basically saying that someone somewhere is going to make changes, and we're supporting them.
I think,
and it's not limited to what you said. These are just suggestions.
That's what the concerns you raised. So the university president could, if he wanted to, change the song. He's asking us to vote as a body to change the song if he wants to voice his view. But if he wanted to, he could just change the song. That's his prerogative. We're giving him the authority to change the song. He has not just gone ahead and changed it. That means he's going to take it. It's going to be processed for him, taking his constituents' concerns about campus, alumni, and the greater campus, for everyone who can provide their voice. I think if we as a body, as a small body, decide what those words are going to be, that's even worse. We're not allowing the greater campus to decide what those words will be. But by us, this is basically what we're doing. We're empowering democracy to provide those words that they think are best. And then democracy will decide which words to use in the future. And the power that you're looking for is the president of the university.
And so two things. You have, both of you have said that democracy is not the way to go, so that seems contradictory.
Seeing as there are no more questions, we will move to assembly.
Okay, assembly, we have 10 minutes for questions. Representative Boyd.
Yeah, quick question. Are students going to be reprimanded for saying man, co-eds, or Ferris, even if the changes are made?
No, I mean, even now, you can see whatever words you wanted. I imagine if the university decided to change it, that a large number of people continue seeing the words as is. I've heard there are people who sing the actual original song that includes our Stein's Lager and smoking our cigars. Like, I've heard that people sing that still because it's tradition. And so I'm not interested in forcing anyone to do anything, but I think the university should sanction a version of the song that's inclusive.
So freedom of speech is still going to stand,
Yeah.
and people are not going to be reprimanded. And so what we're saying is that these changes will just be made as an alternative. Would you say, like, it'll be official, but alternative for people who feel more comfortable with the new song?
Yeah, I mean, I know that, like, at commencement it's going to be sung, and rather than having the current words, if we change, they'll have the new words. At orientation, if they want to, teach the song, they'll teach the new version, but anyone can sing whatever version they want.
Thank you.
Hey, if these changes go through, Sam, when will this song when will this be put into effect?
That would be
say commencement.
No, there's no way that this process is going to take place that fast. My understanding, and it's still not 100% sure, is that I plan, if this resolution passes, to bring that to President Pershing, and then he can decide what to do next, whether that being going to the Academic Senate, Alumni Association, Board of Trustees. As was mentioned, he currently holds all the power to do this. It's really his job to make sure he's talking to everyone before he makes a decision. Our job is right now about students.
So would it be like at like the late or the earliest would be the following year then? Fall, you
I
would
would
say?
say the earliest would be fall.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think I can definitely see how some people might feel that the words and fight song are harm them in some way. But I think if you look at the other side of the coin, I think that there's lots of people who think that changing the fight song will also harm them. And maybe equally, maybe not as much. It's hard to tell. I think it's kind of objective. You said that the harm will be minimal if we have a change. And on Friday, I believe you said that if someone's love for the university is swayed by the words of the song, you're worried about their dedication to the university. How do you apply that to the people you're talking about? But at the same time, on the flip side of the coin, you know, if the words of the fight song is really what's keeping people from going to matches and from loving the university, how do you apply that to one group and not the other? Because I can see it going both ways. And because Representative Boyer just talked about, and anyone can sing any words they want. It's totally inclusive and totally welcome to different.
Yeah, but changing it, I think, sends a message that this university prioritizes inclusivity, and people now have, you know, an incentive to sing the new words. In terms of, I'm sorry, there's a lot that you mentioned. People's, people, I don't believe the harm is that of changing the song is the same as the symbolic representation of the aggression that takes place on campus. If you like the song as is and don't see it as inclusive to you, changing it to fan, I don't think it's exclusive to you either. But I think if changing the song makes you not want to go to football games or like the U less, if the words of the song are more important than the principle of inclusivity, that would be where my concern is.
But the question I'm asking is, are we saying that people would be offended by the change? What about people now that, you know, if the words of a fight, 2 words of a fight song that really think them would engage? Yeah, I mean that's basically what you're saying about people who would feel that way if the songs change.
You know, I don't know that I believe that merely 3 words keep people from going to a game. But if you come on this campus and your teacher says something discriminatory, you go about and you face microaggression, and then you go to a game and you're reminded of all those things because of this fight song, that is the issue I have.
So why not? Why are we? Kristen's probably downstream, or we could go to the source, which is teachers.
I've been working on that all year.
Discriminatory things of maybe ASUU showing misogynistic films, being misogynistic rappers. Let's attack it at its source. Why are we doing that?
I agree. I actually have been able to work on multiple projects simultaneously. So this isn't like the cure-all inclusivity. It's one of many things the university needs to do. I don't think it's fair to say that we should ignore the fight song just because there are other issues. I think the reverse is true. If you're unable and unwilling to change the fight song, I doubt that you're willing to talk about these other issues. And my experiences here have been that's the case.
Representative Harris, I think you're equating 2 things together. You're equating official sanctioned university policy with how students feel, how students act towards one another, what cultural and societal reflections the students get from their surroundings, and that's not the same. What the university signifies and sanctifies and says is our official policy. And we are kind of the light on the shining hill. We're kind of representing this greater, better place. That's the university. What happens below when people are fighting with each other, when people are hating for each other, that happens, period. And that's a societal issue right now. And I think that's more of the misogynistic rappers that you're talking about. What we're doing as a university is saying, we are the city on the shining hill. We officially sanction the use of words that are inclusive, not words that are exclusive. And I think you're worried about professors, but part of the problem we have is professors with tenure and freedom of speech. And while there might be issues on that end, that's more of a administrative issue and less of a promoting fight song.
So my question is directed to Pittman. You said that because this issue is so decisive, we should vote on it. But to me, that means if this is a decisive issue, shouldn't we provide more space for discussion? Like, if it's so decisive, shouldn't we talk about it more? Let students be more aware of what is going on instead of just pushing it through?
Well, I don't feel like we're pushing it through. I feel like the purpose of this meeting was specifically a special session to be held on the topic of this, basically designed around this. After we've had forums in the Inkling in which Cheston and Sam have both represented their views, and people have debated the issues on multiple times. It's after I've sat on the radio and debated people and talked to people. It's after there have been op-eds in almost every major newspaper in the state of Utah, even outside of the state of Utah. We've made CNN. I mean, I think people have really debated this issue in most of their own methods, and there's only so long you can kick the can. And this is what happens in congressional politics. I think over time, the issue is so divisive that we refuse to take a stand for it. But as we don't take a stand, people are oppressed even more. When we don't take a stand, official university policy continues to be discriminatory or offensive to some people, and eventually we have to say enough's enough.
Okay, I can see that, but I still just feel like, I mean, this has happened relatively fast. I mean, I think it's been about like 2 months when we, as assembly members, voted on hearing a dialogue. And don't you think, since it's so divisive, we should allow more space or more time to hear it out, to let students be more aware? Because I don't think a lot of students realize what's going on until recently, and now they're trying to figure out where they stand. And I feel like we should give more time to letting students hear it out fully, and having more discussion, like the panel discussion we had on Friday.
So I think in my mind, the students who showed up for the panel discussion, the students who've been calling in, writing in, sending emails, are the students who feel most affected by this legislation, and the most likely ones that you're actually ever going to hear from. I would say if you walk on our campus, 1 in every 2 people that you talk to probably doesn't know what our fight song is. 1 of every 3 people, at least 1 of every 2 people that you talk to probably doesn't care less side today, and probably a greater number than that, to be honest, which is sad in its own right. But I think those students who you need to hear from, who you have heard from, you've already spoken with, in my mind, as a representative, it's your duty to go to your college. If you haven't done that, then that's on you. I've done that, and I know many other people have, and I know many other people have heard from their constituency, and I think this is the time to go, set a deadline, here's the amount of time, get your job done, get your voices in. Democracy doesn't just wait and pause and keep moving. It's a continuous dialogue, it's a continuous process. If we change the song and in 10 years someone finds another word offensive, then they'll convene and have the same kind of discussion we're having today.
And just to clarify.
I would actually encourage that if you guys have a follow-up question, that's fine. But please wait to be called on the chair so everyone. So going to the representative, or Johnson, sorry.
So first off, I just want to say I agree with you about yeah, I've definitely had plenty of time to discuss this with the students of my college. And I've heard a lot of people who are for these changes, and I don't think that voice has been represented as strongly as it needs to be, first off. The second thing, and Sam, I don't know if you know this or not, but just based on one of the letters you passed around, you happen to know what year women started here?
I don't.
Motion to extend time by 2 minutes.
It's been called and seconded to move to extend question time by 10 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Aye.
Are there any abstentions? Okay. Representative.
Just a point of clarification. There's a 2.8% population of females on the rate. That's what but the question I have is there's a contradictory statement that we're trying to change official policy when we don't even have the official policy to do this. I'm lost with the logic in that. Take me through that.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the actual issue. If this is the problem, then let's move forward. Let's call our university administration to action. It's their job to decide policy, not unfortunately our job. So when they hear from us, whether we want this or we don't, they should act. And how that looks like is the Pershing prerogative.
Representative Williams.
Yeah, so just going off of Representative Newhall's point of clarification, 2.8% of women, or 2.8% women were attending the university when the song was written. Do we happen to know what the percentage of not only women, but gender nonconforming, genderqueer individuals now are on campus? Do we happen to have that information? All right. Just wondering.
So, just to clarify, the women, when this song was written, women didn't have the right to vote. There wasn't legalized interracial marriage. And I think we would all agree that times change and we have to change with it, and although tradition is great, we can't stick to the same. I mean, if we stuck to tradition, but we would still have no interracial marriage and women wouldn't have to vote. So I would just want you to do a tradition. I know that a lot of teachers lose their tradition as they should. I just want you to speak to how changing tradition will actually make for a better
yeah, I can speak to that. I know that you know, traditions are important. They're a way to connect, you know, generations to each other and connect communities. Unfortunately, this I feel has been divisive, and I think this particular tradition has actually changed before, and I don't know that changing it again is like really that crazy or wild of an idea. And three words, I feel like we're maintaining the integrity of the fight song. You know, you can still sing it as loudly, you can still get energized, and now we'll have a greater population of students that can take pride in singing that. And maybe, you know, Mark alluded to a lot of students not knowing it. Maybe with that renewed sense of pride, we should, you know, focus energy in teaching song to all, an inclusive song to all.
I also think this is something that can address Representative Owen's question. The University of Utah is taking a much firmer position on an inclusive nature of higher education and diversity in the future. We have some of the strongest and most inclusive internal protective procedures, discriminatory protective procedures of any campus in our region, and especially the city. We protect not only sexual orientation, but also beliefs and gender identity. We protect a host of a slew of things in federal law and state law and even local law. I think, and directly to her point, we are a campus that's headed in the future much more quickly than other campuses around us. And I think we're drawing in many students because we're changing, because we're adapting, because we're building massive new buildings, and we're drawing in new technology, we're drawing in new educators. We're advancing and we're keeping up, not only just keeping up the times, I think we're moving ahead of the time in some aspects. We're really showing that we're progressive. And progressive, in my view, means we're building a tradition that the U will always be on the cutting edge. We will be the Google, we will be the Facebook, we will always be advancing, we will not stop. Don't just lay low because we decide that enough is enough. Efficient stop because we stop slavery. I think in my mind, what this really is about is advancing the future of the university. And more concerning to me is the part that some alumni threatened to withdraw funding from the University of Utah if the fight song would change, but others have even threatened they would give more money if we did change the fight song. There have been such divisive issues on the campus. I think what really matters is the future of the university, the future of students attending this campus. Will they feel included? Will they feel like diversity is accepted? Will they feel like the university is where they want to be?
Yes. So excuse me, ASUU hosted the Wolf of Wall Street, April 11th, I believe was the date. Honestly, as a female, I do. We have the right to vote, and that's wonderful, obviously. But we as a university are hosting movies like The Wolf of Wall Street, which I don't know if how many of you in this room have seen the movie, but it is completely discriminatory towards women. And as ASUU, how can we stand behind showing movies like The Wolf of Wall Street at the university and offering that to students? And then we're going to say that we can't say Utah man, which my personal definition of man, when you look it up in a dictionary, is a human being of either sex. And that's what it says in a dictionary. When it says Utah man, I personally feel that that represents me as a student at the University of Utah. So I'm just curious to the fact, how are we supposed to stand for changing it to fan when we are showing movies that are already already putting aside one party and sex?
Yeah, and I wouldn't argue with your point. In fact, you know, I've gotten that feedback that was probably a movie we should have reconsidered showing. And I mentioned this in the debate. I don't consider myself the epitome of inclusivity. I learn every day new things, and we probably made a mistake there. And because I may be an imperfect messenger, I don't think the message is wrong. I think we probably shouldn't do what we did, and we should also change the place. I think we should do both. The message of inclusivity probably is far-reaching. In fact, and I apologize, that as you mentioned, the dictionary defines man in a lot of different ways, being both sexes. I've been educated that this discussion also includes those who don't identify male or female. So that's something I learned as well. I think I'm willing to accept the fact that I made mistakes inclusivity-wise, and I hope to not make those mistakes again. But I don't think that means we shouldn't fight to change the fight song.
I completely agree with you that the message of inclusivity is not flawed. I think that's inherent. But I'm just curious how many people, what percentage, you mentioned the statistic on Friday that 32% of students feel little to no sense of belonging at University of Utah. For those who don't know, that's a pretty average statistic for what one would consider a pretty large commuter-type campus, based on statistics across the country. But I'm curious, of that 32%, this is of graduating seniors, just so we're being transparent, how many of them were impacted by this song? And this is pure speculation. How do we know how that number will change if this passes? Both people who are offended because we changed it, both people who are thankful we did change it. I don't think it's pretty clear. I think a poll would be great, just to at least get a feel for. We talked about the net profit. We can't even claim that. Again, we're writing a blank check here, and you're asking us to. We don't even actually know who we're writing it to. It could be President Pershing, but even then, he might defer and hand the check off to someone else. So based on these unknown statistics, I don't see why we have to rush through this process.
I think you're bringing up a really interesting debate. It's actually, ironically, something I've been studying very recently. It's the same argument that was made when the United States was entering World War II. Congress said to the president, "How many Jews have to die before we get involved?" And the president said, "If one dies, it's too many." And I think in my mind, if we're discriminating against a group of students already, students feel discriminated, we shouldn't be discriminating against by the numbers. 300 are affecting their World War II numbers. 299. This is the argument that Sam made earlier about majority versus minority. Why are we not protecting the minorities? Why are we not?
But I think based on logic,
why are we not championing the minorities? I feel like the quote, almost a quota type system that you're asking for. We're wanting to know the specific numbers of students that are affected. We don't know that. And we will never know that because of the students that actually show up to these rallies. We know that at the Hinkley event, probably 9 out of 10 people there were in support of students. Where were the people who weren't? Did they not care enough to show up? That's probably not the case if I didn't have the time or other considerations. I don't think you'll ever actually get some kind of special number that will tell you exactly what you need to know. Now, in my mind, this is not an issue of voting on the numbers. This is an issue of voting for the future of the university, the campus, and the student audience.
Sam, I had a couple questions about who initiated this dialogue originally, who you were approached by, and then also at what point President Pershing.
Motion to extend question. Motion to extend questions. 10 more minutes.
Second.
They call the second to extend questions by 10 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Great. And at what point President Pershing got involved, and if he was the initiator, or where he came into play?
So can you repeat the first question before?
Right. Who approached you originally, and who kind of pushed for this originally?
Yeah. So when I drafted the resolution, it was at the time a faculty member from the College of Social Work who began the dialogue with me and asked if that was something I was interested in helping out with. And I in terms of President Pershing's involvement, I have to think about that. His involvement is pretty much no involvement.
Okay.
to my understanding. And I have discussed this with him. But in terms of moving something forward, he wanted to be ASUU initiate that.
Hi. I just want to commend you, by the way, for standing up here and answering all of our questions. I know it could be. Anyway, so you said that this would earliest take effect in the fall. Did you consider the incoming freshmen and maybe what their input is, because that's a whole another ball game. So
yeah, I think that's that's a fair question. That we could expand the potential students quite a bit. We could take high schools. I think all year Assembly and Senate have been voting on behalf of current students, and I think that's the case to follow. That's how ASUU is a representative democracy, and we are representing current students, and so I think that's kind of how ASUU is set up, and it's a good system.
I also think that if they have particularly different viewpoints on this issue, that they could bring that to the attention of the university. So if you all do decide to pass this, and all the incoming freshmen are like, "What happened?" then they can still go through the process in order to make that change.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, so I would just like you guys to address the Representative Nichols' comments regarding the definition of and how, although our society may define it as a sexist definition, and if you can speak to that, and also how the House of Representatives so change opinions, and so the community dialogue.
Yeah. So, speaking to the definition, so the song is over 100 years old. At the time the song was written, the word man was not intended to include women. I can assure you of that. The same way the Declaration of Independence did not include the term woman when they said all men. In my mind, the term man, as it was introduced originally, is stuck in tradition and stymied at times. I also think that the term men, all men are created equal, might relate to all human beings. But the point was also made that there are many people who do not associate with a specific gender, people who associate in between genders. And that offends even more people. I think as these words get even more broad, as the definitions increase, as things change, there is more offense. Fixing the change now eliminates future instances of discrimination. And I'll give the second half of the question to Sam.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I've been introduced to the definition of the dictionary. And I did just a little bit of delving into dictionaries and origins and whatnot. And I did not an academic study, so I didn't bring it, but just anecdotally, I mean, think about who wrote these dictionaries and when they were written. And our whole society is permeated with sexism, and that includes our language. And sometimes I get caught up in that, and I say maybe dude or man to someone who doesn't identify that. And I have great friends who correct me, and it's going to take some time to overcome that. So just because our dictionaries aren't immune to discrimination, and in fact, I think it's the very fact that we can see very clearly statistically that women are being discriminated against, and that our language reflects that reality. So I think both need to change together. Oh, and then the letters. Yeah, well, so obviously this became a very public dialogue very quickly with all the coverage, and so a lot of input, and we received a letter of support from several alumni who now work as legislators at the Utah Capitol. A very prominent, successful alumni who would like to see their alma mater become more inclusive.
I'm from the School of Medicine, and I'm 7th year. My 7th year is I had a few points that I wanted to highlight. I know a lot of you mentioned
more, but I have to highlight the mechanism by which this and the point that's mentioned and debated, but I just find it like crazy, like almost it's like seems very irresponsible to be voting on this within 24 hours when the powers are going to change next year of the inauguration without any scientific data on actually supports it or against it. It just seems like such an emotional topic that really it's hard to have a fair discussion. And we talk about democracy idea, but I find it like very interesting.
But is it more fair in your mind that if this administration decided one half of it and the next administration decided another half, shouldn't the dialogue be kept within the administration? Because we're going to decide one thing, and tomorrow the next administration will take over, and a whole different body may say, you know, it should be banned, it should be backhoe. It should be I'm a Utah backhoe. Because why not? Because that's I think in my mind, we as a body have been addressing the issues the entire time. It's our responsibility to deal with it here now. We put it in our laps, and why are we putting it off to someone else to deal with?
No, I feel like since it is such a big topic that people are fired up about, although we don't really care, just from a lack of polling, it should have been a point in the campaigns for the next year. Question. Sorry, what? If you have any points to be made,
I'd like to move to previous questions.
Second.
Because we're in questions period, we can't.
Shoot, never mind.
So you said that like each administration will be different, right, with how they vote on this proposed resolution. But so shouldn't that mean that we then get like a more consensus from the students, which are less changing, and see what they say? And that's just the question I ask.
I think, to be honest, I think ASU probably, in some sense, the ASU probably changes less than the body. I think many times the people who were in assembly this year will be president next year, and that continuity can exist in some sense. Our student demographics change by at least 25% a year. If you're taking your 4-year students, and you're graduating students every 4 years, at least 25% of our campus is turning over. Let's be honest, we have far higher than that. People drop out, people go on admissions. People transfer schools, people transfer into the school, so I don't think there's any continuity in that sense. But I still don't feel like, in any way, shape, or form, we can keep deferring on something. I feel like, in some sense, it doesn't matter how much time we give it, how many people's voices we include, not everyone will always be happy in the end. And what we have to do is we have to say to ourselves, we were elected for this period of time, we are hearing this issue here now, it's my job to vote yes or no, up or down. Do I feel that this song is discriminatory, could be discriminatory, has influences on campus that are probably not what we want them to be, and do I vote to change them?
I'd just like to add as well that one major reason that I've been passionately moving this forward is that given the history of a lot of these kinds of initiatives and seeing a lot of them start and die, I thought it was important for me to be able to carry it through, and I'm not sure that it will continue. If we vote to not change it today, I think we probably just end the dialogue. It's a hard dialogue to have, and I don't see anyone willing to step up and take my spot when I've gone. I would recommend it. So, and the second thing is I feel that maybe alluding back to Sierra's comment about the voting in terms of the majority constituents or a principle. To me, I think I believe what the right thing is for our university. Obviously, I don't have a vote. You do, and I think.
Motion to extend. Motion to extend. One final question. Motion.
Would you like to adopt this amendment? Because we have to report.
Well, then I don't want to. So then let's motion to extend. Oh yeah, move to exhaust.
It's been called and seconded to adopt the speakers list, which will be formulated after we vote on it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Division? closed? Okay, we will stop the speakers list. So far, I have Chester Hall, Ashley Bailey, and Richard Harris. Is there anyone else that has? Okay, and then Sam.
Okay, so I'll just say, you know, I believe like if any of you individually feel like this song's actually exclusive, to vote on your conscience and vote what you think is right. And so that.
So, Representative Pittman, on the same logic about the analogy with World War II, you know, how many Jews have to die in order for I guess the same question, if we use the same logic, how many people have to be offended by us changing their University of Utah fight song for shutting this bill down?
I just want.
Wait, that was for Representative Pittman.
I'm just slightly analogy.
Sure. And so, I think the point that you're trying to come up with, Justin, is you're analyzing the harms, right? I think Rigger spoke to this earlier, and Sam spoke about it as well. I don't think the harm of being offended on the instance of race or sex or any kind of personal offense is equivalent to being offended because they tradition.
Can you please answer the question?
I imagine. So, and I think you're not equating the harms correctly. I think you're saying that because you're offended that the tradition is being changed is one thing, but I'm saying that offending you because your gender is being attacked is an entirely different thing that's rated much higher in terms of harms than if your tradition is being attacked. And I think in my mind, the analysis is really the harms outweigh the benefits because students who are really offended are those who really have something at heart. Maybe their gender is affected, maybe their lack of gender is affected, maybe some other instance about them is affected, and not the fact that their tradition is affected.
I was just curious with, we had mentioned that there was a change previous to the fight song before, and I was wondering if you could enlighten me on the process that was taken there and how similar or
So in terms of the process, my understanding that was just unilateral.
So there wasn't like a.
There wasn't.
My question.
A lot of talk about we don't have any goals. Like clarify why that is, why we don't have goals, and perhaps
So in terms of polls, I mean that's a proposal for a huge initiative that I think is, in my point of view, not reflective of issues of exclusivity. As I mentioned before, if it's mainly majority versus minority, however it goes, that's not what inclusivity is about. It's about including those who are not included in the minority. So we could do a poll and we could find that a minority don't want to change and then just say, we're not going to change it because they're. And I just, my personal values are such that I feel that we have to be intentional in engaging with those who are marginalized and speaking on their behalf. Those of us who have positions of influence have to do it on their behalf because they're not able to do it. And the poll's not going to change that reality.
I think the other reality is we have limits, we have constraints, we have budgetary limits, we have time limits. We don't have $100,000 to pay for Andrew as well. Your university, and then we do it for the university, and then someone complains we didn't roll the suits off, and we didn't do it for all the alumni and the rest of them. We have alumni scattered throughout. I think there are limits. So we are the ASUU business. It is your job as representatives to hold your students independently, or to figure out in your heart how you're going to make this vote thing, whether that's on the basis of the majority of students that come up to you, or whether that's on the basis of what you feel is right. I think that's up to you, and not up to the arbitrary poll that is going to cost us a ton of money and take a ton of time and not actually be.
Okay, so now all assembly representatives will gather on that side of the room, and then come together on this side. Please raise your name back.
Oh,
Oh, sure, you guys can see
Yeah, you'll only be hearing one half.
I should like just make a complete square with gas. Why we can take up to the back and that. Okay, so we're gonna sit here, Rachel, you can share over there. Yeah, there's a chair over there on that side, right?
We have 10 minutes for debate. I'd like to remind everyone to be respectful. And if I look at you and acknowledge you, I put you on the speakers list and we'll get to you in order as I see hands raised. Okay? We'll have 10 minutes for debate starting with Representative McCall.
Thank you. Okay, so I would say that people don't come to the University of Utah or college for that matter for the fight song. I think people go to college, or what my knowledge is, for the education. That being said, I think we need to better educate our students on this fight song by promoting more publicly. I know we've tried with Chronicle and stuff, but we do spend student fees on, we've spent them on the past on elections, and I think they can be better spent on educating our students and having a voting poll for the students as well. And this is where I stand. Thank you.
Oh, I can't stand, so I'm just going to sit here. Just so everyone's like super clear, I'm not taking any sides, and it's just because all of us are the voice of our college, not your individual voices. So if you do think strongly of something, I'm sorry, but you need to think for your college. So it's not your personal decision. So that's all I needed to say.
I don't have a copy of the bill. Does anyone here have a copy of it so I can take a look at the verbiage? Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, so thank you for your comments, Representative Newhall. I think you're completely right. People don't come here for the fight song. I know I did not come here for the fight song because the fight song does not represent me. The fight song did not represent me as I identified as a woman. It does not represent me now as I identify as a genderqueer, multiracial individual. It does not represent me at all. It does not represent students I've been talking to. And that is the feeling I've had from students. I think that this fight song is setting a standard, and it's allowing like hateful speech to be perpetrated. As Sam was saying, if you've been on the Utah Man Am I page, if you stand in opposition, or if you stand in favor of these changes, you are immediately attacked. I have received threatening messages. I have received messages saying that I don't have a say in this, that I shouldn't have a say in this. So, as I'm saying, like, this is more than about a song. This is way more than a song. This is starting a dialogue of saying we can't even talk about 3 words in a song without students being attacked, without students feeling like, I don't want to come to school anymore. I don't want to even stand up and talk anymore. So this is becoming more than a song. And I feel like the song, as Sam was saying, is representative of what we need to be doing in this community and how we need to start these discussions. And even if these changes don't go through, I feel like that the University of Utah has shown how we approach change and how when masculinity is challenged, how that can become very dangerous for people who do not stand in that majority, as people keep on saying. So yeah, maybe there isn't a majority standing up, but we have to remember that there are students who are scared to stand up. I was scared to stand up. I didn't want to come here tonight. I did not want to stand up here and say this, but I've been getting messages. I've been getting, thank you for saying that. Thank you for being there. So I am here today. I'm putting myself on the line. I'm there standing with Sam, sitting with Sam. I will support Sam, and I will support these changes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. There were just a couple of points that were made earlier that I just wanted to
Could
address.
you speak up? Sorry, we can't hear you guys.
Sorry. There were a couple of points addressed earlier in the questions that I just wanted to talk about. One of them is population of males versus females right now on campus. That's roughly 55% male, 45% female, but that statistic doesn't even include gender neutral and all other categories that students identify as. And the word man was also spoke about. I think I have numerous sources here. That the word man in the context during when it was written, this song was written late 18th century, like it was very clearly referring to men. And so I don't think that there should be any question about that sort of like referring to, mankind or anything. It's very clear, especially because of the lyric about coeds. There is a distinction being made. With regards to a poll being done, I feel like as representatives, we should know by now, after a month or more of discussion, how our students feel about this. If you don't know, that I honestly would argue is irresponsible of you. In terms of like having a poll, I think that we know from elections, not everyone gets out there to voice their opinion. I honestly don't see that as being as effective as using what we are supposed to do here as representatives and just vote for the democratic system. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Hi everyone, I'm Representative Capu. So again, just speaking to how the minority feels, right, and how we are regarding the poll and the majority and the minority on this campus. So I've served as one of the lead interns for the Campus Climate Task Force that was formed this year in response to 3 years ago during the elections campaign, where many students of color, many underrepresented students with disabilities were attacked on their posters with, racially charged, sexually charged threats. I've received a couple as well. When I first came here to the University of Utah, I did not know what the fight song was. When I was told to sing it, I refused, and I was told I wasn't being used. I find that the campus climate here is very, very toxic to underrepresented students, and to have that pull for majority students and minority students to have their voices heard will be very detrimental to those to the minority that is offended and that is discriminated against by being on this campus. The Asian American population here on campus is 5%. The Black population here is 1%. The Latina population here is 4%. Pacific Islander, 1%. Native American, 2.4%. Again, if we do change, or if we do try to make this a more inclusive whole, including students, not even here at the University of Utah, incoming first-year students to alumni, again, a lot of voices will be erased. A lot of voices will be invalidated. And again, just raising the questions that the constituents haven't heard. I have served as an officer for the Asian American Student Association for the past 4 years. We are strongly in favor of changing the song. I also I'm with the Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán as a member. They do not stand for oppressive lyrics, oppressive, institutional lyrics for there to be continued in the University of Utah, along with the Black Student Union, the Intertribal Student Association, and the Pacific Islander Student Association. To address earlier comments about how, the majority who don't want to change the fight song, about how harm goes 2 ways. I believe that the harm doesn't. I feel like feelings go 2 ways. However, the institutional discrimination to keep students who are minoritized, who are not part of the majority, are never listened to, and that's why it's important for us here to decide what the future is for our campus to be more inclusive, especially considering that the recruitment and that the retention rate for students of color, underrepresented students, and women on our campus are abysmal. For those that are traditionally underrepresented, the state of this university is, it's a shit show. A lot of people don't feel safe. A lot of students whom I represent, as part of my constituency, do not feel welcome at these football games. At these events where the fight song is a part of it. For these reasons, I'm going to vote to change, and I hope you all will make this change.
Representative.
Oh, did you say New Hall? Sorry. Couldn't hear. A lot of, I guess I'll quickly address the term man, and because it's semantics, I'll save everyone. Other than actually, literary journals as far or as early as in the 1980s coined man as a gender neutral term. So it's actually being taught in education. Moreover, if you think about the common ways that man is used, stick it to the man. For example, is a common phrase I brought up last Friday. If you're able to hear the recording, is a kind of a more contemporary version. And the intention of the fight song, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe it has ever been refused to be played at a women's sporting event. I think the only place where Utah Man is put up is in the Utah football facility, and I think that's primarily because it is brand new. It'll probably be put up in the basketball facility once it's there, and the new pool once it's there. So to address that concern, I think it's disingenuous if we coin the term man as meaning male, because I think, if you just look at common sense, there is no pronoun or there is no term that is like that to say just kind of like all-encompassing. And so at the time, that's what they were going for, and I think.
Motion to extend time for 10 minutes.
Second. All second to extend time by 10 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Are there any abstentions?
Before we continue, sorry, so because our voices are projecting this way, it's kind of interjecting with Senate, can we have a way where people can speak up here? Like, would that be okay?
Yes. Okay, let's do that. So from now on, if you're that way you're projecting, yeah. If you're going to be speaking, come up here with me, and then I will make sure you make periodic eye contact with me. If you're next, I will let you know. Okay? Okay.
How about just the people on the video?
This might be difficult, like in Avalon. Like if you're over here, obviously you project your voice, but if you're over there and you're on the speaker list, if you don't mind moving up here, just project your voice this way.
Okay. In that case, after every representative is done, I will announce the next two representatives. If you guys can come up and stand here, that would be great. And if it seems like it's wasting time, we'll figure it out. Okay, so after Representative Newhall, we have Representative Harris. Bridger.
Sorry, what's that?
You're going to be next, and then Representative Thatcher.
I just hear those since I'm not projecting.
Sit right here. I can't.
No, come up here to talk.
Oh.
Bridger, you come up here.
You both. So the next speaker come up here, but I will let you know if you're next. Okay. All right.
Okay, great. Is timer good?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Excuse me. Oh, so I understand semantics, and there are deeper issues here. I'm at the University of Utah than semantics, quite frankly. And I agree with Representative Boyd. There are serious issues at the University of Utah, but I have a hard time believing that 32%, I mean, it's just a number, but I have a hard time that whatever percentage it is or whatever the feelings are, I have a hard time believing that because of a fight song, they're going to sway drastically one way or the other. And I think to try and address the issues, of oppression and that events here at the University of Utah cause, that harm that it causes, I don't believe this is the best way to do it. And I think that to coin the song Utah Man as offensive is offensive to the song, because in no shape or form has it ever been intended to harm anybody. I've had the privilege to play the fight song at the University of Utah women's basketball game. At the University, I've heard the drum line played at the University of Utah women's soccer team. I've heard it played at the football game. I was taught it before I even was attending school here. And I think throughout the test of time, Utah Man or a Harvard Man or a Bowdoin Man has always kind of been coined not simply as two separate nouns or a pronoun and a noun, but as a singular pronoun, as the word Utah Man implies everybody, because there is no other term that is as literary for English majors. You're gonna know the term better than me, but more poetic than that. I think that is the best way, and that was the intention, despite the minority at their time. What they were trying to do was they're trying to find a best way to include everybody, because they knew they knew at that time that there's going to be a hard time trying to find a way to include everyone. And the way that Utah Man has been lived throughout the tradition here at the University of Utah has been such to include everybody. And if you look just at the representatives here, we have a varying points of view. And that the heart of Utah Man is being lived throughout this room because we can have these open discussions, because we can have these disagreements. And at the end of the day, we can all agree that we attend the University of Utah and that we can see this on YouTube. Finally, in terms of polling, I really don't think it's that hard logistically to have a poll. I think you could pull it on the Daily Utah Chronicle. You can email all students, which I believe is free, to have a poll just to get a gauge of people's feelings. We don't know if there are going to be more people who are going to be more upset about us changing the lyrics than there are people who are going to feel the opposite way. And I understand there's going to be people, oh, they pulled the money, oh, like tradition. Yes, those arguments are invalid. If this is an issue of money, that is irresponsible. And I think those arguments should be shut up. But when you think about the reasons for changing this, I think there are more serious issues than a fight song for us to address. And with that said, I will be in support of shutting down this bill. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Harris will speak, and then after that we'll hear from Representative Thatcher, and then Representative Johnson.
How's it going, Assembly members? Representative Harris here. I'd just like to begin by saying, if you think that this isn't an emotionally charged issue, and if you don't have any personal bias toward it, I think for the most part you're wrong. I think a lot of us, myself included, are very biased towards, one way or the other, and maybe we aren't representing our colleges accurately. I personally think that this bill has been instituted very hastily. I have taken the opportunity to poll very many members. It's been a convenient sample for those of you who know what it is, but I've polled lots of members of my college to see what they think. Most members of my college still think what the media has told them, that the only thing that's happening is that we are stressing having a dialogue. That's all anybody thinks that I've spoken to. That's all everybody thinks is going on right now. No one knows that we're actually voting on changes because it was so enforced that changes were not being made, only a dialogue was being enforced. I think we need to be more responsible by giving more time to this issue, by speaking about it more, giving more dialogue, and hopefully getting a better representation from our colleges so we can remove that personal bias. That's something I know I would like to do myself. I hope you all can consider that, and that we can give this bill a little bit of more time and inform people a little bit more about what's going on. Thank you.
All right, so for a point of clarification, I just want to clarify kind of my stance. Regarding the song itself, I actually am in favor of changing the song. I think we can use language that's more inclusive. With the dictionary, I mean, words change. That's just the nature of words. It's all based on convention, what society is defined at the time. And I think man is an outdated term, and we can use a more gender-neutral term. My only question and concern is how this is being done. I would like to see a more democratic process. I mean, not saying that we have to get a majority, because obviously the majority is what is included in the song, male and white. But I'd like to get to kind of poll or measure the minority that's in favor. Because I've talked to some minorities, and they really don't care. They're pretty indifferent. And most of the emails I've received have been to vote no on the song. I haven't really received any emails, even from minorities, to vote no on the song, saying, hey, this doesn't bother me. This goes more into like my soul or whatever than the lyrics or whatever they say. But they've asked me to vote no. And so so that's the kind of thing I'd like us to look at, is how this is being done. Try to get it more democratically, and also provide space for discussion. I think we have moved this too quickly. I think it's been about a couple of months at least, and I think we should provide more space for discussion among people to discuss the issues and see if it really affects them, because this is a big thing. As you see, we've had media attention, and I think we should be very prudent the way we go about this. So,
We'll next hear from Representative Johnson and then Representative Black.
Right, so first off, I'd like to just start with, I'm not a man. I will never call myself a man. I don't care how the dictionary defines it. The dictionary is descriptive, not the law. As far as us representing our colleges, I think that's important. But we were voted in to represent them, and so I think that we are able to vote on this appropriately. And lastly, I'd just like to agree with Representative Boyer on this issue. The hate and the racial slurs, the sexist slurs, everything that's been going on surrounding this is offensive and it's unacceptable. Like, this issue is more than just changing a song, and maybe this is where it starts, but it's definitely become more than that. I think that the students of the university have shown that this is a project issue.
Okay. After Representative Black, we go for Representative Owens and then Representative B.
Okay, so I just want to start with saying I really agree with you that this is a huge issue, and it is something that really, I think, really affects students. And a lot of people have made comments that you should know by now how your college feels and what those students, you should have gone out and given a poll. You should know which way to vote for them, but I just don't think that that is accurate. I think that I feel like I'm very involved on campus, and I just heard about this maybe a few days ago. And I'm a proxy for tonight, so I was asked to be a proxy at 1 o'clock today. And I've tried to brief myself on this, I've been thinking, and so, I mean, it's been an issue previously, and friends and I have discussed this in classes and during lunch, and one of the comments earlier that was made is that that students who have spoken out against, or I'm sorry, for this change have been discriminated against and labeled as, homophobes and defining sexism and racism. But then when some of my friends and I were discussing this, we were approached that all of a sudden we were racist and we were sexist and we were homophobic because we did not want to change this song. And I just think that this is something where the students really need to be involved, because this isn't okay for us to say that we know we can speak out against this. Because it also made a comment earlier that why would we do a poll because 1 in every 2 students doesn't know the fight song or they don't care. Why are we qualified to make that judgment? If that is true and they don't care, then this poll is easy, because people who do care are going to be the minority, and they're going to vote to change the fight song, if that's the logic that we're going by. More than anything, I'd like to give myself more time to think about whether this is something that we should change or not, because it is a serious issue, and I just feel like just addressing things that the bigger areas on campus, and we're trying to change it by this one thing, and I don't think it's going to make an effective change. And I honestly am just going back to more time for the students to have a say. If you want my honest opinion, I think alumni should have a say. I think people in the community who spend money buying season football tickets and attending every game should have a say. While that's not exactly plausible and probably not something that could be easily done,
Representative Hill.
Motion to extend time for 10 minutes.
Second.
It's been called and seconded to extend time by 10 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? Time has been extended.
Sorry, I'll shorten it up, but again, I just think this is a serious thing that all students need is the opportunity to speak against or speak for, because this affects all of us. It's our school, and saying that we can accurately speak for each student in our college, I just don't think that that's true. I don't think that's an accurate statement. I think we need to give people the opportunity. We have votes for ASUU. We have votes for our representatives. We have votes for many, many things on campus. Why not this? Why is this something that we just get to decide? Because when I was voting, for representatives as a freshman, as a sophomore, I was told, well, they will determine club funding. They will make, smaller decisions that don't need a full vote. This is not one of those issues. This is very, very big, and it affects more than just the students. It affects every alumni, every incoming freshman, I think this affects everyone who considers themselves of wanting to be a U or a Utah fan or a Utah man or whatever you want to put it. And I just think a poll is not that hard to do, and we need to give the students the chance to give their opinions.
Okay. After Representative Owens, we will hear from Representative Keaton and then Representative Pinner.
I'd just like to make a motion to exhaust the speakers list.
Second. Okay, it's been called and seconded and moved to exhaust the speakers list, and I will ask if anyone else wants to raise their hand so they can hear their piece before everything is done. All those in favor of exhausting the speakers list say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, we will exhaust the speakers list. I'm going to read through it. After Representative Owens, we have Representative Wheaton, Representative Pittman, Representative Newhall, Representative Simmons, Representatives Boyer, Camus, Key, Representative.
Take me off the list.
Okay.
People have addressed those.
All right, Representative who? Representative Newhall, Representative Sadler, and then Representative Harris. Is there anyone else? Remind me of that. It's right. Okay.
Wait, clarification. You said Newhall twice. So I'm curious.
It's me.
Are you before me or after?
I'm before you.
She's before you.
Okay.
She's quite
Great.
soon.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, of course. Okay, so far I've added Harris, Hyde, Lewis, Johnson, Bailey, Fisher, Owens. Is there anyone else that I missed?
Please take me off. Thank you.
All right, we will continue to exhaust the speaking list. Okay, so mine's a little bit long, so buckle up. Sorry, there are just a lot of things that have to be addressed. Just black. So, okay. Just to address a couple of her points, she says that every student needs the opportunity to speak. We've given them that opportunity. It's been public for over 2 months, and every student has had the opportunity to email their representative, to go to the talks, and it's been on the radio, like Mark said. Every student has had the opportunity to have their say if they want it. Conversation has been going on for a long time. She also accuses us of not having the authority to do this. We definitely do. We vote on big matters, not just like student bill funding. We vote on like electronic parking spots. I mean, we vote on stuff that costs the university a lot of money and a lot of controversy. We're a really essential body, and no offense, she hasn't been a part of it all year, so she doesn't really know everything that we've done this year. We have done a lot of things. We have the authority given to us by our students to vote on these things, and they're important. We do have that authority. She said a poll wouldn't be very hard to do. A poll is extremely hard to do, especially with a university of our size, reaching out to all the different students. That's extremely hard and expensive. That's why we have bodies like this to vote for their constituents. Okay, Representative Ashley Newhall said that we're here to get our education, not to, or we don't go to the university for the fight on. Forgive me if I misquote, I'm just summarizing, sorry. How can we successfully get an education if people are being discriminated against? We're here to get an education, but then I don't feel safe walking to my car after a night class. I mean, and I feel that way partially because it is a patriarchal school. I know that it's run by men, and it's run by Utah men, and I'm sick of it. I don't get represented in that song, and I'm sick of it. Representative Hughes said that we don't have, that we have the opportunity, or we have the obligation to just vote for what our college thinks. I don't think that's true. I think that, yes, we do have to take into consideration our constituents' opinions, but as well, we are voted based on our person. We are voted to make the best decisions that we think also taking into consideration our constituents. For the Fine Arts College, I've got an equal number of emails regarding changing the song as not changing the song, if that's interesting. And I'd just like to acknowledge Representative Boyer that I have gotten hateful stuff as well for standing up for this. Hate threats, bomb threats, I'm going to attack you when you come out of class, super hateful stuff that's not okay, and shows that there is a serious issue here that needs to be, that people need to stand up for. Representative Chesson Newhall said that man is a gender-neutral term coined in the 1980s. 1980s was still a very patriarchal society, as it is today. It's not okay to condone these gender-exclusive terms that men/dictionaries coin as gender-inclusive. They're not. They're just plain not, and it's not okay. People are concerned that it's only affecting a minority. 45% of females, and I know not all of them, are offended by this. So let's just say 20%, that's over half of females not being offended by it.
That's still 20% of our school that's offended by our fight song. That's ridiculous. That should not be happening. And to say the song is offensive just merely by semantics is degrading and makes it seem insignificant, and I don't think that's okay. Let's see, I have one more thing. Sorry, I'm hurrying. Okay, so lastly, our words lead to actions. If we have a sexist fight song and that's not racially inclusive, we're going to have a sexist and discriminatory campus. Our thoughts and words equal our actions. And if we don't push this forward, I mean, there's a whole nother generation of freshmen who are going to be discriminated against. And that's not okay. And that's why we're taking such great haste with this, is we need people, we don't want to hurt anybody else. I encourage you all to vote to change. It's 3 words, literally 3 words of our fight song, and it's affecting more than just the song. These are our students that are being hurt and discriminated against, and that's not okay. Our institution needs to condone an inclusive environment. It's 3 words. It honestly shouldn't be generating this much hate mail. 3 words for a better, more inclusive campus.
After Representative Payne, we'll hear from Representative Pittman and then Representative.
Okay, so first I just want to kind of represent something that Representative Owen said about Representative Black, that she said that we don't have the authority to change the lyrics, and then that you rebutted by saying that she hasn't been on this organization, and that we do have the authority. But it's true, she hasn't been a part of ASUU the whole year, but she is who we're representing. She is part of the student group, and if she feels that we don't have the authority, how many other students feel that we don't have the authority to change this? Also, keeps going back that voices need to be heard, not to vote for your college, to vote for like whatever you think is best. Things along that line. It's not very clear, but I know that I have received so many emails from people not just in my college, from alumni, from everybody. At least 10 emails voting against the bill to 1 that I get for the bill. I'm not saying that this is a light issue and that those people should not be heard, and it is a smaller population, so that's probably why I don't have as many emails, and that is unfortunate, but I just want to recognize that the majority kind of does have more of an influence in the long run. And it really does break my heart that people are receiving threats for standing up for what they believe in. It should not be the case at all, but it does prove to the seriousness of everything, and just like what Sam said, we don't know exactly what's going to happen next. If we were to pass this, we have no clue, and it's so serious. By no means do I want to prolong what the people are going through, the people that are receiving threats. I don't want that to happen anymore. We need to address that and fix it, but we don't know what is going to happen, and we have to have like set deadlines and exactly what's going to happen in order for us to comfortably vote and feel like we are representing what our student group wants. Sorry, I shake.
After Representative Pittman, we'll hear from Representatives Newhall and Pittman.
I think those of you who have been in the Assembly this year know me as probably one of the most ardent supporters and ardent advocates of the Assembly and of our ASUU process. I think I've worked throughout the last year to make sure that we were legitimized, that we came across as an organization our students trusted, and that our students actually felt like we did things for them, that we benefited them. And I think that's something that's been lacking in the past and will hopefully change in the future. I think while I have more respect for representation than most other people that I know, I think that on that point, her and I have to disagree, that I think our students might not take ASUU serious, but I do. And I'm here because I care about the university, because I care about the student body. I am one of the most privileged people you will find in the world. I am a white male with a graduate degree pursuing another graduate degree. I've been on this campus for 7 years now. I think I've been a part of a lasting legacy, and I've been working for an even better legacy. I ran under Cheston and Bridger last year, and while they didn't make it, I thought decided. And I disagree with them very, very firmly and very fundamentally on this at university. Since in the last year, I have founded a diversity organization, the business school, of which I'm president. I've worked tirelessly as a privileged white male to advance the rights of women and minorities and to ensure that their voices are heard in almost anything that I do. And that's not for some higher purpose. That's because I feel that it's wrong for rest or a certain demographic of society to exclude another demographic of society simply because they're not what they wanted to be. And on that point, I have to commend Representative Boyer for being courageous enough to stand up and to speak about her own story and her willingness to be here today. And the fear that she feels in being here. I do not feel fearful to be here. I know many of the women, including Representative Owens, do at times feel scared to be here. And that's also why I asked that she could please be here. The university, this is the symptom of a larger problem. But it is also not the solution to the larger problem. It shouldn't be seen as such. Addressing the fight song addresses a fundamental issue with the fight song. The parts of the fight song are offensive and discriminatory to students on campus. And I think that's exactly what we're here to address. We are students elected to represent our class currently. If we vote next year, the students who we represent this year, the seniors who are graduating, don't get a say in the process. And it is our job as ASUU to represent our students. Alumni have a voice to the president's office, to the alumni organization, to other meetings. It is your job to focus very narrowly, as narrow as it sounds, very narrowly on the students that you represent in your college. And while I understand that many of your proxies haven't been with us the entire time, I am sorry that you have to come here tonight to debate this issue and don't have much experience in the process. But at the same time, you did accept the position to come here tonight, and you're being challenged to vote. And I think I'm challenging you to vote the way that you would vote had you been in this organization the entire year. And that is to vote as if you are a representative of the people elected for a one-year term to do your best in that one-year term. In the last week or so, there have been active acts of manipulation by people trying to oppose this bill. People have argued that some of you should not show up today. There's been arguments that some of you did not receive notice to show up today, just so we wouldn't have forums so we couldn't hold this vote. That disgusts me. It undermines the institution I've been working all year to hold up high, to show students on campus that we're legitimate, that people care about us. And I'm more offended by that than anything else. And that's why I stand as firmly in support of this bill as I do today. If people manipulate simply the vote for us to show up and talk about it, then they'll manipulate other things on campus, especially the rights of minorities and underprivileged individuals.
Okay, after Representative Pittman, we're going to hear from Representative Newhall, then Boyer.
Mine is actually a point of clarification. Is that it? If I told Sana earlier, if anyone has to go early, can we just turn in our voting sheet with our vote on it, or no? Okay.
Okay. So first off, I just wanted to address Representative Owens and Boyer. When I said people don't come here for the fight song, that is true, but we come here for the education. I meant by that as in I think we should educate people more on this serious issue. I think it is a serious issue, and I think to better people's experience here at the University of Utah, we do need to educate them more. So I hope that makes clear. Okay, great. Also, I don't think 2 months is enough time. I think we haven't even attended a sports event to even sing this song or even give it a beta or alpha test. I think that should be implemented before even deciding on what should be an official thing. I think that would be, if people are so against the polls, then fine. But I think students need to have be somewhat acclimated to the fact that there can be change instead of a whole House of Assembly representatives voting for them before they even have the chance to say or speak the new words of the fight song. So that's as well as what I think. But I think also too, people that are for the change that are getting hate mail, which I'm very sorry about. It goes both ways. I have been called sexist and racist for standing up for what I believe in, and what I think my college believes in as well, to keep the fight song. So I think it does go both ways, and I think there's a fine line which we don't know what to cross because it hits the middle. Either side is getting affected. And it really is unfortunate because I wish we could come to some middle ground. But I think before we do that, I think we need to bring it to the entire student body, whether that be poll or saying the potential new words, the fight song, at sporting events, because I think that would give or raise awareness to students of what could potentially change. And we could take a poll after the game, whatever. But I think that would also increase attendance for people that vote at the end of the game as to which words they want to keep or get rid of. So, thank you.
After Representative Simmons, we'll hear from Representative Boyer, and then.
All right, so I've just been writing notes. This is kind of addressing things on all the purpose. But anyway, so everyone's been talking about traditions, 110 years and everything. We still have the tradition. It's not like we're getting rid of the whole flag system. It's 3 words. And then also people say this isn't a big change, it doesn't matter, there are other things that are bigger. That's absolutely true, but we have to start somewhere. Just because there are big issues doesn't mean we have to ignore the little ones. And it really shows that this is what the university is about, that we're about making everyone feel included. We're about being progressive, we're about changing these things, whether they're big or small, because if you're being excluded, something that's small feels very big to you. Then people are talking about polling. Okay, so at least for me, and I feel like all of us representatives should have been talking to our colleges. That was polling. It may not have been through the internet, through CIS, but that's polling. It's polling. So we should have all been doing that. So we should know what our colleges feel like. 2 months isn't long enough. Well, we can talk forever. Every big issue, you're always going to have people wanting to do their input. It's like these debates. We put time limits on them, and yes, we've been extending it, but you have to end the talk sometime and to do something. We don't know who, and then people were saying we don't know who is going to make these changes. President Pershing will make these changes. We're giving suggestions, we're saying that we support it, but in the end, President Pershing is the one who has to say. And then also, we keep talking about the minority. Okay, so if 45% is women, then suddenly they're the only one, or minorities, suddenly they're the only ones who can be offended by this. I'm white, male, I am not being affected by this, but the fact that so many people can feel excluded by the words, that's disappointing to me. So even though I'm not part of the minority, it's something that's important to me too. And also, several people have said that they've only heard from a few people speaking out against this. Well, who are they talking to? They don't know who they're talking to, so they may not feel comfortable coming forward with the opinion because they are the minority. They're the one being excluded by this, so they don't know who they can talk to. They don't know who they can talk to without potentially getting hate mail. Again, who wanted to have more dialogue. Well, I think that everyone who has an opinion about this, it's not going to change whether we talk for 2 months or 4. Everyone kind of has their mind made up whether it feels like it excludes them. If you're being excluded by this, that's not going to change. And then also, people are saying we need to do voting maybe voting through CIS or something like that. Well, Representative Camus told us the statistics of what our percentages are of minorities. If we're just doing a straight majority vote, they can't win. They can't push this through because they are the minority. And then there was the comment about, do we actually have the authority about this? And then, some people feel like we don't. Well, there will always be those people who feel like the government doesn't have authority, whether it be ASUU or a country's government. There will be people who feel like the people in charge do not have authority to do it. And then also there were some comments about there's a deadline and we're going to have to push this through. Yeah, we need to vote on this now, but like Sam said earlier, there isn't a deadline. There isn't we will have this done by fall. We will have it finalized by a certain time. This vote happens today, but we don't have the final version. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay, after Representative Boyer, we will move to Representatives Camus.
All right, so I just want to thank you all again for being here tonight and for listening to me, because I feel like I have a loud voice, and I feel like there's a lot of loud voices in this room who have a lot of opinions. And so thank you for once again entertaining me. First of all, to Representative Newhall, talking to Cheston, I know there's a lot of Newhalls here, so Cheston. All right, you mentioned that the definition of man. We have beat the definition of man into the ground with this debate. I'm tired of talking about definitions. The Webster's Dictionary was written by white, privileged males, cisgender males, heterosexual males in the 1806. That was one of the first copies made. So talking that like they say that man means mankind and like humankind is not representative about what's going on today. And then also, it's more than just talking about men. This is talking about people of color when we're talking about Ferris of coeds and the like misogyny that goes along with the word coeds. Ferris, if we want to go into the dictionary again, I don't know, that seems to be working here a little bit. Ferris means like light in complexion. So that's, if we want to go to the dictionary, then we have to look at all these words and like what they mean in the dictionary, but that's not going to win this debate, because it's going to mean different things for different people. And also, as far as pronoun usage, for there being no gender-neutral pronouns, I'd like to just point of clarification. They, them, these, your, guys, yours, I'm butchering these. I use they and them pronouns, so there are gender-neutral pronouns. Just real quick. And you also mentioned that the song is not intended to offend anyone. The original, like, the song, actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't it have, like, something about drunk bands, and then on the field there was a drunk Native American riding around on a horse? I think that's pretty offensive to me.
I don't think that was in the original song.
That wasn't in
You
the
asked for
original song?
correction.
Sorry?
Should have been recognized by the chair, but
that's fine. But the original song has been changed, and it is offending people. Even if it's not intended to offend people, it is offending people now. Let's see, I can't read my own notes, so I'm going to skip that point. Let's see. And Bridger, you made a point that, like, or excuse me, Representative Harris, you made the point that we are, like, creating this dialogue, and that it has been pushed out to the community as being a dialogue. And I think that's actually completely true. Because like Representative Simmons said, it is ultimately up to President Pershing, and it's ultimately up to the administration about what they do. They are asking us as students to weigh in on that. And so I think that us saying, as student representatives, and as a student body, that we want to change this, is ultimately a recommendation of dialogue. Because in the end, President Pershing could say, no, I'm good. I'm going to keep it where it is. And so I think that it is being pushed out as a dialogue, and that's correct. And I mean, there's been a couple comments tonight about being like, you know, being called racist and sexist for supporting the songs. And I'm not going to outwardly call you a racist or sexist for supporting the song, because that's not why I'm here tonight. And I do not count myself as an all-out ally for every single community that I do not represent, that I do not share. It is about this song, changing this song is about doing work towards our own, like, oppressive behaviors and actions. It's about doing work to make sure that these students who are not heard, who are not part of the majority, who are part of that list that Senator Camus put forth, are being heard and are being included, are being represented. So it's not about me calling you sexist or racist, because I truly do not believe that you are, if you support this song, are sexist or racist. Believe me, I do not believe that at all. I just believe that pushing back on these words, pushing back on these institutions that put these oppressive forces in place, that make it okay to have these actions on campus, that make it okay for faculty to stand up and teachers to stand up in front of class and say something horribly transphobic or heterosexist or racist or sexist. These are making these actions okay, and it's about pushing back against these actions. And let's see, Representative Ashley Newell, you and a couple other representatives, sorry, you're the only one I'm like, who had, I know, I just really like talking to you, I think. So we've been mentioning this has been around for 2 months, and like I said to Representative Cheston Newhall in the very first debate, this song has been around for 110 years, and I guarantee there have been people for 110 years who have been affected negatively by this song. And I would like to just reiterate, this is not about a song. This is about changing the precedents, changing the standard for Pac-12, for for the University of Utah community, because we cannot allow tradition to justify oppression. That is the bottom line of this debate. And, you know, we have traditions that are built in sexism and classism and racism and heterosexism. And when are we going to start making our own traditions? And that's where I'm from.
Okay, after Representative Cameron, we're going to hear from Representative He and then Representative Hu.
Point of order, is it possible at this time to move the previous question?
I believe that because it's been called that we move to exhaust the speakers list, we're going to exhaust the speakers list unless someone wants to call to move to previous question, and then we'll vote on it with the understanding that no more speakers will be heard from.
I would like to so call the previous question.
It's been called and seconded to move to previous question and ignore the rest of the speakers list. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay. We will move to previous question. The debate is now over. We will wait for Senate to finish with their debate, and then we will hear, I believe, it's 5 minutes for speech, but it could be long.
So everyone please be quiet, remain where you are as of right now until Senate is done, okay?
Why not just here until there's
Representative Bailey? Yeah. Would you like to make that motion?
Well, I would like to make a motion to reconsider because we were all on the list, and just because we had to wait our turn doesn't mean that we should not be heard because we had to wait someone else's turn in line. And so we have a set list already, and if we're going to continue to the wait anyway, I feel like we could consider these the action.
I went.
How many people are on the list?
There are 11 more people on the list. Representative Hu had her hand raised first.
Can we put a time limit on the speakers if the hasty motion is passed?
I'm going to hear from everyone right now, and then we'll see if we make a motion. Representative Johnson.
I would like to move, sorry, what I would like to have happen is that if we are going to discuss this, I would like it to end as soon as the Senate is done, and then we can move on.
Does anyone want to say anything before we first have to vote on like Representative Goodwin. Prioritize those who have not spoken before us. I don't know that we necessarily want to do that because I feel that if someone has asked to speak again and they do have points that they feel haven't been raised, I ask that if you're going to make a redundant point, you avoid that because we have been sitting here and we have heard all of these points. Representative.
I move to recess until Senate's done.
Right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been called and seconded to move to recess until Senate is done. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
And I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Wait to vote on her motion.
Representative Hall, you should also ask for a point of personal privilege. Okay. All right, so we're going to call division on whether or not we move to recess for 10 minutes. Keep in mind that it has been called that as long as we're sitting here, we might as well hear it, and I'm sure that motion will be made after we vote on this. So, all those who voted in favor of recessing, please raise your hand. I would appreciate it if someone else could help count. So I
got 9.
All those opposed? Okay, we will not recess. Representative Bailey.
So with mine, I think if we move for hasty
Please speak up. Sorry.
So for that one, if we move for hasty action, being able to have the speakers on that list be able to talk, but I think putting a time limit on them is a great idea.
Representative Johnson.
Again, I strongly urge us to stop when the Senate stops.
Representative.
I motion to continue down the speakers list until the Senate ends.
Second. It's been called and seconded that we move to move to recall hasty action, move back to debate, exhaust the speakers list until the point at which Senate is done, and then we will wrap up. And if it's been called and seconded, all those in favor of doing so, please say aye.
We have the 2 minutes.
Yeah, can each speaker have like a minute or 2 time limit?
All right, I will re-amend it, recall this, and revote. Okay. So it's been called and seconded that we Move to revisit hasty action, go back to debate, continue to exhaust the speaker's list until the point at which Senate is done, and add a 2-minute cap on each speaker. All those in favor of doing so, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Are there any abstentions? Okay, we will continue with Representative Cameron, then Representative Flynn.
I'll just go pretty fast. Some of the main points. Oppression is multifaceted. We're talking about intent versus impact. The impact still is like, even though the intentions were good and not offending anyone, the impact is that students are facing threats upon their lives for speaking out against this song. Those who are discriminated continue to be oppressed while we continue to delay, as has been done in the past 100 years. In terms of the fairness, or the fairest word in the song, increase the false hierarchy of skin color and skin tone that is favoring to the white and light skin. We're talking about offensive. We're talking about comparing sexist and racist remarks and being called sexist and racist versus threats to life, which I feel are not equatable to each other. Being called sexist and racist is calling into question your privilege and the stance of which you are taking in terms of the song, versus the threats to life for people who are oppressed for standing and speaking up against it. I think that's it.
Okay, after Representative Lee, and I ask that we continue what we've been doing, where the speaker who is speaking, unless they are on this end and can project that way, that they do come up here and then the next speaker is waiting to make this a more smooth process. And again, I will remind you of your next one speaker. Okay, Representative Key. And then, sorry, I'm just going to let everyone know, Representative Key, then Representative Hu, and then Representative Hall. Okay.
We heard concerted questions concerning the future governments and how they react to this bill. And in informal sessions with incoming President Spengler and our constituents, I saw the transformation of his opinion. When this issue was first brought to us, he was against changing the fight song. And over the course of hearing the opinions of our constituents, he has changed his opinion towards changing parts of the fight song. So just note that there won't be, I guess, a change as far as the presidential cabinet is concerned, concerning what we're talking about here today.
Okay. After Representative Hu and Representative Newhall, we will hear from Representative Sadler and then Representative Mike.
Alrighty. So everyone keeps saying that minorities are being attacked. I hate to say it. It's not the fight song itself. Like, I've worked with minorities. People see me and they're like, oh, she's a woman, she's colored, like she probably speaks my language, and it's true. I've talked to a lot of them. It's not the fight song. It's our whole culture. Sometimes they just don't get it. What's going on right now is that people are way overanalyzing things, and people are just speaking up for what they think is happening, but what really might not even be happening. For all the minorities, like, honestly, it might not be offensive to them. I'm not trying to sway anyone or say, you know, you're wrong or you're right, but people who are saying, like, it's only being affected by those people, not true. I don't go to football games because I don't like the culture. I wasn't raised that way. Probably there are a lot of people who are like that. So, one aspect.
Okay, after Representative Newhall, we will hear from Representative Sadler, Hyde, and then
Just want to, you've obviously heard my points about, you know, alliteration and other literary devices. But really, what it comes down to, and we don't know. We don't know that it's just going to be 3 words because we use the same logic to determine the first 2 words. The terms yell and hear, I think, should be analyzed too. And even a fight song in question should be analyzed because of possibly discriminating against other groups. I think that there needs to be a lot more thought that goes into this than 2 months. I'm thankful that the Assembly has had 2 months to discuss this, but I'm not convinced that the public at large has had even 110 years to discuss this. And I think you bring up some very valid points. I believe that there needs to be a formal platform where this can be discussed, I think last Friday, for example, was a wonderful opinion of why we can do that when Sam and I had the debate. But the problem is there's not even an available recording of the debate. People don't know what was said at the debate that was meant to serve as a platform. So how are they going to actually hear the arguments on both sides? Ultimately, what this comes down to for me, the biggest issue I have here is transparency and ensuring that the student voice is accurately heard and represented on both sides of the bill. I think we need to know what the changes will be. I think we can't just simply write a blank check. I thought it was a great metaphor. And although it's possible that President Pershing will change it, we don't know that who else is going to change it. And there are even people who don't know this meeting is occurring. There are people who didn't know about the debate until 10 days ago. And I believe that there needs to be more advance notice and more than just social media. It could be simple. I even asked Sam at the debate on Friday, how much would it take to just send out an email? And he said, not much. At least you could send out an email to let people know, if they could just submit more letters or, a poll takes one email, a link to a poll, and yes or no. That's all it takes. I don't think that takes hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay, after Representative Sadler, we will hear from Representative Hyde and then
Great. I'm not going to speak anymore. Everyone's already said.
Okay.
First, I don't think I understand the arguments in favor of keeping the song, and so I'm going to go through them and try and see how I'm understanding it as they've been presented. One of the arguments in favor of keeping it that this process is too hasty, that ASU is dysfunctional, students aren't properly represented. That's an opinion I agree with, but this is the process we have right now. And that is work that we also need to carry on. We need to make ASU better, but we can't be held back by that to do the best we can now. Tradition, the argument of tradition, I think we also have a tradition of improving the song, and the song will largely stay. Semantics of man, we've talked about this a lot, but I don't know what man. Perhaps, arguably, man is inclusive or not. Man is inclusive, and so we know that. Other examples of sexism and racism on campus, such as Wolf on Wall Street, that is true as well. We have a lot more work to do, but also I hope that doesn't hold us back from taking action tonight to do what we can here. Questions of the process of what will happen after this. What we do know is it will go to President Pershing, and this is a recommendation. Joint resolutions don't do anything in themselves, but this is a strong recommendation, and my understanding is that Pershing will value this quite a bit. We have a lot more work to carry on after this, and I appreciate what Representative Newhall said about questioning other words in the song, and we can do that. That doesn't need to stop here. Make these changes and revisit next year. Perhaps yell is offensive in some contexts, so we can carry that on. And so I hope overall that we are not held back by other restraints that we experience with the ASUU and with our campus. This is an example where we can make a change to try and be more inclusive.
Okay, after Representative Hyde, we will hear from Representative Johnson and then Bailey.
All right. So for those of you who may be proxy, who weren't here in January, there was a bill that was passed that we decided we changed some rules in order to give us student group funding because the claim was that it was a good cause. And so applying that to this bill, we will be changing this, and a lot of people are giving it on the grounds that it's a good cause, that it will affect a group positively, even though that's not the majority. And I personally represent the University College, and I've gotten 24 emails against changing the song, and only 4 in favor of changing it. And so personally, I feel uncomfortable changing that, where as a representative, I'm representing these 28 students, and the majority of them are against changing this song. And so purely saying, based on the grounds that it's a good cause, that it'll positively affect a certain group, technically that's not in our job description. We're here to represent the student body as a whole. And I can only speak for me. Those are the emails I got. Those are the students that reached out to me. And another point that I just wanted to bring up is that we voted on this bill somewhere in the end of March. But we didn't really start hearing about this until the Crony did that article on it, and the media raised awareness. ASU didn't, to my best knowledge, did not raise awareness to this. And so that's just the power of how much we should do a poll, bring it to the light, so the more people know about it, because merely just ASU saying hey, we have this bill. We didn't say that, but if the media gets hold of this, the poll will have a much larger audience. And that's all I got.
Okay. After Representative Johnson will go to Representative Bailey and then Fisher.
Yeah.
I think
Was
so.
there high?
Oh,
Sorry. My bad. Okay, so I'm a proxy here tonight. But I'm very familiar with the issue. I work at the LGBT Resource Center here on campus, and I have had many opinions expressed to me in favor of changing the song to update the lyrics because, as Representative Boyer said, this song and so many other voices have echoed, this song is not inclusive of all populations. Yes, sorry, this song is not inclusive of all populations. No matter how you look at it. If you go by the dictionary definition, and the song was written in 1904, I believe that's correct. Representative Newhall said that in 1980 the definition was changed and to be inclusive. It was not intended to be inclusive of all genders. Additionally, as was stated earlier, a lot of people will probably continue to sing the lyrics "man" as a fan, and whenever they get changes to those haven't been specified. If people continue to choose to do that, that's their choice. However, as an institution, we have continually attempted to be inclusive of all populations. To make this song on the website, to make it official in Canada, this is an inclusive song as opposed to using exclusive language. People can choose to do what they want, but simply saying that this is a more inclusive song will help a lot of populations. We've talked about the culture of football games and how athletic events and how they're not welcome. And that's a reason that a lot of people don't attend them. I've met with the Alumni Association president who has specifically said LGBT people don't enjoy football games. And they don't, like, your people don't enjoy being with us. We have a lot more institutional issues, and we need to tackle all of these issues. Just because this is an issue that you don't think affects yourself or certain minorities, this affects everything.
Point of information, something that you said that no one knows what the changes are. I'm not sure if it hasn't been addressed yet, but we've talked extensively about the change from Utah man to Utah fan, but just so you all are aware, what's been discussed on changing co-eds are embarrassed and students are required, just so everyone's aware. They're done? Okay, the Senate is done, so as previously voted. Okay, so our debate session is now over, and I'm sure we'll hear from a joint 5 minutes, perhaps, of speaking. Thank you, everyone, for being respectful. I really appreciate it.
Oh, totally.
No, it's fine. An encumbrance. Wow. Weapons been running for 3 hours.
You're right.
Yeah.
So the Tom was just grades. The Tom was deciding not to.
All right, so we will begin the 5-minute summation by the sponsor. I think many of you who have been in the Assembly and Senate throughout the last year have known me to champion lots of bills, and bills that I have fought very vigilantly for. Maybe some of them I've even taken to court as recently as yesterday night. I take my job very seriously. I take ASUU very seriously. And I take what we're doing right here, right now, extremely. The fact that we called a special session, the fact that we're spending hundreds of dollars by being here, the fact that you all showed up to decide on this important issue. I also take the university very seriously. And I take inclusion and diversity extremely seriously. I consider myself to be very fortunate to be in the position I am, a white male that's educated on this campus. I'm in support of this bill, not only because of the inclusion that we have fosters for now, but the change it makes for this university for the future, and on the ability of you, the representatives of the people, to vote for the class you represent today, right now, your constituents, and how they will impact the university, the legacy that they will leave.
Yeah, so as I heard the discussion that can take place, it just brought to mind a lot of my experience and the painful experience I've witnessed others because of issues of diversity and inclusivity. This vote is a symbolic vote. You don't have the actual power to change it, and the Pershing doesn't actually have to listen. But we're going to send a message today, one way or another. And that message, I hope, is that we value inclusivity and diversity, and that we hear marginalized voices. And I hope you vote your conscience if you truly believe in inclusivity. Will that change based on what the majority says or doesn't say? And if you do believe in that and want to send that message to people who are in dire need of these positive messages, please vote in favor of changing the fight, of asking our administration to change the fight song. With that, I know that I want to say.
Yeah, so I very briefly wanted to tell you all a story. And it's my story here at the university. I'm not trying to speak for anyone other than myself. I have been very involved during my time here on campus. ASUU 5 years, Benyon Center 4 years, RHA, HRE, the whole spectrum. And I feel that my belonging on this campus has been compromised. And it's not because of the fight song, but that's part of it. It's a sign of it. And I feel that, like I said, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I feel that I am actually, at this point, glad to be graduating and get out of here because I'm tired of fighting. And I think that's really sad. And thank you all for your time in considering this. And I hope that we make the right decision, whatever that may be.
All right. So at this point, please vote on your voting record. Hold it in half. Assembly, pass it to Representative Grid. Senate, pass it to me. We'll move to the back of the tally, and then we will announce it.
Who wants to write in joint bill?
Joint Bill 11, not Joint Bill 1, sorry.
Well, people are writing in different spots.
Okay. Just to clarify, Joint Bill 1 on your voting record should be Joint Bill 11. I clearly thought exactly what happened.
No rush. No rush. No rush.
All right.
So I have everyone's vote as
Sorry.
You were right though, against everyone else already. She was saying that snaps for that. And just let me know because I'm not changing it because I'll leave it. That's how it works. So are you guys living in Sacramento or? He's supposed to be resident, so he'll probably be somewhere else. Yeah, it's just depending on what you okay. Okay. I just thought people do residencies every month. That was my impression. So I mean, eventually, yeah, so I don't know. We'll see you guys this summer, though. Yeah, we'll be super excited. My boyfriend and I thought it'd be hard, like dating from Utah State to begin. It's going well. Like we thought an hour and a half is bad, and I told him. I think his boyfriend lives in Texas, so he was like, "Really?" Every weekend. Yeah, so that's better. It'll be 6 months in May. Yeah, he's coming to your wedding. He told me he has to come. I opened it and I was really happy. The fact that it didn't say accurate date in the back, I was kind of confused. I was like, okay. I'm super excited. We'll get to see you. Does it have okay. We'll try to be very I'll try to come. It'll be cool. So how exactly do you propose? I just want to how it works. Yeah, so, well, I was fine with it. I was fine, and my mom had Oh my gosh. Dude, he's creative. Awesome. Oh my gosh. You guys spoke with his own press. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Annika, that's so cute. Oh my gosh. I forgot Hilka starts sophomore year. So. Yeah, I know. Where's your visual there? Where's his echo?
Oh, okay.
Which now echoes where, but it used to be
That's weird. When did you guys
it was after I
That's why. I was like, I've never seen you or David there. Well, actually, I've never seen any of the others myself.
my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college, so it's been a really special experience.
Fair. It definitely was in our senior year, because it was still James and West, like most of this stuff. That is so cool. That's really cute.
Alright, so if we could all bring it back to the elders.
With 21 yeas, 15 nays, and 1 abstention, joint resolution has passed in assembly.
For Senate, with 7 yeas, 3 nays, 1 abstention. Joint resolution as of 11 has passed in Senate, so the resolution has passed.
I would just like to make a motion to for everyone to thank everyone that's made tonight possible, especially those volunteers who come out and donate their time and all of you.
You're welcome.
I'll withdraw my vote.
For Senate, all in favor of adjourning the Senate, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Senate adjourned.
Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I'd just like to remind everyone to let's please clean up our areas and don't get out of here. And with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Representative Rivera.
Yes, I'd like to. Yes.
It's been called and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. See you after finals.
Yeah. Dude, it's a call, man.